Subhan Quda, mashallah, he is the president of Guidance College. Alhamdulillah, they're doing a great job. And this is not his first time in Dallas. He's coming all the way from Houston, inshallah, for this workshop. He gave also the khutbahs. So, inshallah, I encourage you to sit and benefit and take notes and ask as many questions as you can, inshallah, Azza wa Jal. This is also in collaboration with Uswa Seminary. So Uswa Seminary is our own seminary here, alhamdulillah, where we offer 12 courses, Islamic sciences. This is actually one of them, fiqh of zakah, but we thought of doing it like a small like workshop rather than 5 or 6 week course. Inshallah, with that being said, I will hand it over to Dr. Ma, inshallah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم نور قلوبنا بالعلم وزين أخلاقنا بالحلم وافتح بيننا وبين قومنا بالحق وأنت خير الفاتحين ثم أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته حياكم الله جميعا طبتم وطاب ممشاكم وتبوأتم من الجنة منزلا بإذن الله ثم أما بعد. As I said yesterday in the khutbah that this is the zakah season. Just a few weeks before the beginning of the month of Ramadan, same questions, are started to be raised. How to calculate zakatul mal, what is to be included, what is to be excluded. This seminar actually will be covering what we care about as American Muslims. So I will not be covering everything because this is a course. I mean, it might take us maybe weeks and weeks to cover everything. But let's just touch on the most important things that we usually ask about when it comes to zakatul mal for us Muslims living in this society here. So we can skip maybe some of the slides, the linguistic meaning of zakah and the virtue of paying zakatul mal and the consequences of not paying zakatul mal. Okay, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prescribes zakatul mal. Those are the technical topics that inshallah we'll be covering in those 3 hours. As you see here, substituting zakah by taxes. Do you think that you can count the tax money that you pay to the government, to the IRS, as a part of your zakah or not? Some differences between zakah and taxes when it comes to calculation. What is to be included and what kind of assets that you should include? That's called the zakatable wealth. Criteria for zakatable wealth. What kind of criteria that zakatable wealth has to match to proceed and start calculating zakah on it. Non-zakatable wealth, on the contrary. Criteria for the zakah payer, who's supposed to pay zakatul mal. The confusion that some people have between a threshold from one side and the poverty line. Combining assets to reach the nisab. If you do have 2 different assets in nature, maybe some livestock and some agricultural products, and none of them actually reaches nisab, do you have to combine, like put them together to constitute a nisab? Consistency of possessing the threshold. Do you have to maintain that nisab throughout the whole year long? Zakah on salaries and professional fees, jewelry and ornaments, retirement fund, investment in the stock market in general. Zakah on loans, if you are the borrower or you are the lender, who's supposed to pay zakatul mal? Monthly payment and there's zakah if you are involved in any monthly payment for mortgage, for appliances, for car, for whatever. Is this deductible or not? Determining the value of assets if you are a merchant, agricultural products, livestock, ovine and bovine, zakah recipients, non-zakah recipients, limitations on zakah distribution, requirements for valid zakah payment, authority to accept zakatul mal, qualifications for zakah workers, who's qualified enough to take care of the zakah collection and zakah distribution within the community, and transporting zakatul mal. So those are the topics that inshallah we'll be covering today briefly. Let's start with substituting zakah by taxes, and just make it clear that the zakah that you pay is not an alternative for the tax that you pay to the government. You cannot count the tax money that you pay as a part of your zakah. There might be a kind of like intersection or common recipients, especially when it comes to the needy. But again, this is like a legal, a civil requirement as an individual who lives in the USA legally, and you work and you make money. In return, you have to pay the government certain amount of money, whether like to the federal or to the state. We do not have a state tax in Texas here. But this has nothing to do actually with Zakatul Mal. You pay Zakatul Mal as a Muslim, whether you live in the USA or you live overseas, it does not make any difference. Whether you work or you do not work, whether you make money or you do not make money, Zakatul Mal actually is completely different. So you cannot count Zakatul Mal toward the tax, or you cannot count the tax, towards Zakatul Mal. However, your tax could be zakah deductible, and your zakah could be tax deductible. What does that mean? If you decide to pay Zakatul Mal to a non-for-profit organization, 501c, tax deductible, then you can benefit actually. You can gain some tax deduction because of paying Zakatul Mal to your masjid, for example, or to any other qualified organization. And your zakah could be tax deductible, and your tax could be zakah deductible in a sense that in the zakah due date, if you ended up having a certain amount of money, but you found out that you did not pay the IRS your tax for this year. Say, for example, the zakatable amount was $100,000, but you did not pay the IRS the $20,000 income tax for this year. That amount actually is not zakatable. You have to put it aside, and you have to pay it to the IRS. So remember, your zakah is tax deductible, and could be tax deductible, and your tax could be zakah deductible. Moving on, when it comes to calculating Zakatul Mal as opposed to the tax, take for example, one of the main differences is that zakah is paid on one's remaining wealth. We don't care about how much you made throughout 2025 if you want to go with the Gregorian calendar. What we care about actually is the remaining income. Let's just give a very simple example. Last year you made like straight $100,000. When it comes to calculating tax, you start the math with the $100,000. Of course, there are some like deductions based on the number of dependents and family members and whether or not you pay mortgage, you pay tuition fees for your college students like kids. Everything actually is to be taken into consideration. But the math starts with the 100,000, the total income that you have made. It's not the case when it comes to Zakatul Mal. From those $100,000, let's say that you spent throughout the whole year long for living expenses and some other expenses, $70,000. You start the zakah calculation with the 30,000, not with the 100,000. So this is one of the differences. Tax rate is progressive. We have like a bracket system in the US. The more you make, the higher your tax rate will be. When it comes to Zakat al-Mal, we do not have the same system. Okay? The most important category that we should care about here as American Muslims is what's called Zakat al-Naqdain, like Zakat on gold and silver, or whatever takes the same role of gold and silver, which is the cash money or whatever is equivalent to cash money nowadays. When it comes to this very particular category, the zakat rate is how much? 2.5%, no more or no less. Whether you pay zakat on 100,000, you pay zakat on $100 million, it does not make any difference. By the way, if you choose to pay your zakat in the month of Ramadan, like you want to go with the default rule, which is going with the lunar calendar, then yes, your zakat rate is 2.5%. What if you decide to go with the Gregorian calendar? Some people actually prefer to pay zakat al-mal in the month of December, like for tax calculation, purposes, for tax deduction. That would be fine. I mean, you can go with the month of December every single year, but your zakat rate actually will be 2.575, because there are 10 days difference between the Gregorian and the lunar calendar. So to accommodate those 10 extra days, your zakat rate, if you wanna go with the book, it's going to be 2.575. If you want to do yourself a favor, just make 3% straight and just have a peace of mind. So that's another difference. Tax might be waived. Yes, in some cases, maybe some people might be waived from paying tax for whatever reason, but there is no way for any individual to be waived from paying zakat al-mal. You did not pay your mandatory zakah for the last 10 years. You need to make arrangement as soon as possible to pay your zakah as soon as possible. There is no way for zakat al-mal to be waived. No one actually has the right, believe it or not, to waive or to excuse anyone from paying zakat al-mal. As I said, the zakat rate in most cases is only 2.5%. Let's start with the zakatable wealth, and the most important category that's common between all of us here is what I call it the personal zakatable wealth. Personal zakatable wealth. That's actually the cash money that you have, or whatever takes the same rule of the cash money. You have some cash in hand, you have some cash money in your checking account, in your saving account, although you are not supposed to have a saving account, as you know. Maybe in your money market account, although you're supposed to keep the money market account only for settlement purposes, not for generating interest out of it. Any money that you have or any asset that you have in your retirement account is to be included, not to be excluded. But this actually does not mean that you have to pay zakah on all what you have in your 401k. I'm saying that this is a zakatable category, not zakatable in full. That money actually could be owned for business purposes, okay, for saving purposes. Someone is still single and saving, for his marriage. Someone did not perform Hajj yet. Someone actually has sold his house and still shopping around to purchase another house. Okay, regardless of the reason behind holding the money, okay, once it is your zakat due date, you have to pay zakat on the money that you have. The cryptocurrency nowadays is equivalent to cash money. Okay, maybe you have like one unit Bitcoin. Let's keep it simple. We don't care about how much you paid for it a few weeks ago or a few months ago. In the zakat due date, if you are to sell that Bitcoin, how much you will be getting? How much is the net amount that will be added to your checking account? That's actually the zakatable one. So saved money for Hajj, for marriage, for the education of your kids in the future, for purchasing a house, for getting married, whatever the reason might be, does not make actually any legitimate excuse for that individual not to pay zakat. Not only that, even if you have paid zakah on that very particular amount last year or last year's, and you have decided to sit on that money, like to keep it uninvested, that's your call. But guess what? You need to pay zakah on it over and over. Any growable wealth is zakatable on an annual basis. The cash money that you have, okay, if you paid zakah on it last year and you still have it for this year, whether the amount is still the same or more or less, as long as you hit or match the nisab or more, as I will be explaining, then that actually money is zakatable. Of course, it goes without saying that's way better for you to invest the money, not to be like consumed or devoured by zakatul mal. If you have $100,000 untouched and you keep paying zakat 2.5% every year, what will happen within the next 40 years? The whole money actually will be gone. And that's why it's good for you to invest the money to set off the inflation, especially like post COVID-19, the inflation went like extremely high, and to set off the 2.5% zakat rate that you have to pay every single year. So as I said, any kind of benefit, any kind of bonus, any kind of inheritance, could be a stimulus check from the government, unemployment benefit, anything that you own, okay, cash money or whatever is equivalent to cash money. You have some gold, okay, gold, maybe like bars or whatever. That's also zakatable. I'm not talking about the jewelry. Jewelry is different discussion. So this is the very first category, which is the personal zakatable wealth. As I said here, for consumption, for saving, for investment, it does not make any difference whatsoever. Someone actually has a house, and he sold that house. Okay, within maybe 2 to 3 months before the zakat due date, he found another house and he put that money in a new house. As long as that money is still like accessible and is still available like cash in hand, then there is no zakah on it, because actually you converted the cash money into a property, and that property actually is your primary residence, so it is zakah exempt. But if you have kept that money for one complete year shopping around for a house, and the zakat due date actually came while you do still have those $300,000 or $400,000, then you have to pay zakah on them, even if your intention and your plan is to put that money into purchasing a house. It does not make a difference. You still actually have to pay zakah on it. That is the first category. The second one is the business zakatable wealth. We need to ask a question here. What kind of business you are referring to? Let's take a very simple example. Someone has a grocery store. as a car dealership, okay? Anything that's called commodity or merchandise or goods, something that's called عروض وتجارة, something like, for sale. Even if it is a displayed item, even if it is an inventory, it does not make any difference. Anything that's for sale is zakatable, okay? Unlike the tools and the devices and the machineries and the equipment that you use to run your business. Anything that you use to run your business, but those equipment and those objects are not for sale, then they are zakah exempt. So only and only عروض التجارة. Only and only عروض التجارة. Take one example, car dealership. In the zakat due date, you found out that you have 15 cars parking outside in the parking lot for sale. Only those 15 cars are the zakatable ones. The mechanic shop affiliate with the business and all the equipment and all the tools and all the devices, even the building if you own that office or that storage, okay, everything actually is zakah exempt. Why? Because they are not عروض تجارة. Only عروض تجارة is the zakatable one. Grocery store. Only the grocery items that are for sale are zakatable. Anything else actually is zakah exempt. That's one category. Okay. Now the second category. What if you do have rental properties, or in a very technical term we call it exploited assets. Exploited assets means that you hold an asset that's not for sale, but you generate money out of it. It could be like an Uber or like a taxi cab. You provide a transportation service and you make money. But the car itself that you drive, although you own it, but it's not for sale. So that is zakah exempt. You pay zakah on the money that you make out of providing the transportation service. What if you have a rental property? You have two different houses. House is the first one is your primary residence. You live there. That's zakah exempt. قولا واحدا. The other one actually is a rental property. You don't have to pay zakah. You don't have to pay zakah on the value of the house. You pay zakah on the lease revenue. How much is the net amount, okay, that you still have available, accessible, owned by you in the zakah due date? That's actually the zakatable part. Quick example, sure. You do have an apartment, okay, condominium, house, whatever. You rent it or you lease it for, let's say, $2,000 a month. Supposedly on papers, you should have $24,000 cash available, accessible, owned by you in the zakat due date. Is that correct? In reality, you found out that you have only $5,000. What happened to the rest of the money? Maybe some of the money was spent on the property itself, between maintenance, between tax, between insurance. Maybe like the tenant did not pay you in time. Maybe you took some of that money and you spend it on yourself and your family members. So long story short, from those $24,000, right, you ended up having only $5,000 coming from that very particular business. Only and only the $5,000, okay? The remaining income, if you still remember, remaining income actually is the zakatable part, okay? If you do have more than one source of income, then you need to think about it this way. What if I have a virtual zakatable pool, virtual one? You calculate zakah on your 401k, as I will be explaining, and you add up to that, whatever is left over from the lease revenue that you have made from the apartment, and whatever cash that you have in your checking account, okay, and whatever you have in your saving account, although again, you are not supposed to have a saving account to start with. So all these different sources are to be added up together in one virtual pool of money, right, zakatable money, and you calculate zakah accordingly. Why you have to add up everything? Because all these different properties and assets and source of wealth are owned by you, and you are actually the zakah payer, right? You are the zakah payer, and you have what we call it in fiqh الذمة المالية المستقلة, an independent financial responsibility. So you are the person in charge of that apartment, of that checking account, of that gold, of that investment, of that 401k, of that whatever the asset could be. So you add up everything together, and you do your math accordingly, and then you pay your zakah. So trading goods, merchandise, that is zakatable, of course, in full. Exploited assets could be rental property, it could be factory, it could be taxi cab, it could be a medical lab, for example. If you have a medical lab, like the value of the equipment that you use might exceed hundreds of thousands of dollars. But believe it or not, everything actually is zakah exempt. You need to pay zakah on the money that you generate out of providing that service. The third category actually is the investment in the stock market. Inshallah, that will be discussed later on. Agriculture products, I'll skip it. Livestock, I'll skip it as well. Treasury troves, I will skip it. If like only and only if you have a kind of oil and gas business, you do not. I'm not talking about someone who works for oil and gas company. Like you're not a professional working for Shell or ExxonMobil. No. If you own that oil and gas business, then you might be subject to paying zakah based on 20% and not 2.5% according to some fuqaha. Although I do not believe that this is the most authentic opinion, because they consider it as zakatul rikaz, like zakah on treasure troves. So let's be within the mainstream fatwa that you have to pay 2.5% on the profit that you make from the oil and gas if you are the owner actually of the oil and gas business, not an employee in that company. Certain kinds of business might not be clear in our mind. Okay, there is a qaida here, like a well-established zakah rule here. Zakah is potentially due on all products whose sources are not zakatable. So you have the source and you have the product. If you have like farming business, the source actually is the land, right? And the product is the agricultural products, like the harvest or the crops. So it's either or. It's either or. There is no way for a Muslim to pay zakah on the source and on the product simultaneously, right? لا ثينة في الصدقة, according to the hadith of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. لا ثينة في الصدقة, like no duplication in taxation, if you wish. So you either pay zakah on the source or you pay zakah on the product, and it's not actually by choice. It is by the code, by the dalil. Okay, if you do have agricultural products, so you have a farming business, you pay zakah on the agricultural products, and that's why the land itself actually is zakah exempt. If you have a taxi cab or Uber service, you pay zakah on the money that you generate, and that's why you don't have to pay zakah on the vehicle itself. If you have a rental property, you pay zakah on the lease revenue, and that's why you don't have to pay zakah. You see here the consistency in the rules. You don't have to pay zakah on the market value of the property itself. So more examples: honey from bees, for example. We do have a hadith, although it's not that authentic one, that you pay 10%. Dairy from livestock. If you have livestock only, then you pay zakah on the head count. Is that correct? Whether it is ovine or bovine. But if you switch, like from having livestock to producing dairy products, between milk and cheese and butter or whatever, you stop paying zakah on the head count. You start paying zakah on the profit that you make out of producing dairy products. Eggs from poultry, the same. Silk from silkworms, and so on and so forth. So one more time, zakah is potentially due on the resource if the product is not zakatable, or on the product if the source is not zakatable. There is no way for you to pay zakah on both, on the source of the income, the source of the product, and on the product itself. It's either or. Now, on the contrary, certain assets that you own are zakah exempt. Take, for example, property for personal, family, and non-commercial use. Anything that's not growable, that's not for business purposes. The house that you live in, right, and the car that you drive, or the cars that you own. I mean, most of us actually do have 3 or 4, sometimes even 5 cars. One for yourself, one for your wife, or one for your son, for your daughter. All these cars, regardless of their value, even if you own more than what you need, everything that is for your personal use is zakah exempt. Of course, a practicing Muslim is not supposed to lead an extravagant lifestyle. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا إِنَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُسْرِفِينَ. So leading an extravagant lifestyle actually is haram. That's israf, right? But the fact that you own way more than what you need does not make the surplus zakatable. That's my point. If you need like 5 bedrooms house and you have 15 bedrooms house, okay, that house actually is still zakah exempt. Although, I mean, you own way more than what you need, but there is a difference between leading an extravagant lifestyle and being liable in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from one side, and the zakatability on that particular asset that you own. What if you have more than one house? Maybe like one house here in the US and another house maybe overseas, whenever you go vacation every now and then. As long as that house overseas is like, locked throughout the whole year long. It's not for sale. It's not for rent. It's not عروض تجارة. You are not making any money out of owning it. Then actually it's still zakah exempt. So the food that you store, like you store in your pantry, the clothing that you have, the house that you live in, the cars that you drive, everything that is not for business purposes actually is zakah exempt. Domestic animals, I can skip that. If you do not hit the threshold or the nisab, then all the animals that you have are zakah exempt. As I said before, all the tools, the devices, the instruments, and the equipments, anything that you run to, use to run your business, but those equipments are not for sale, then they are actually zakah exempt. Even if their value is like they have a very high value, but they are still actually zakah exempt because simply they are not عروض تجارة. You pay zakah on عروض التجارة, anything that is identified as a merchandise, as a commodity, as a good, something that's for sale, that is the zakatable one. Agricultural land actually is exempted because you have to pay zakah on the agricultural product, as I already explained. Property in public trust, anything that is not privately owned is not zakatable. The masjid that you have, even if it has a kind of awqaf or endowment, to serve the masjid, to cover the expenses of the masjid, that's also zakah exempt. Designated properties for endowment is zakah exempt. Unlawful wealth, la samhallah, if someone doesn't care about haram and halal and get involved in any haram business activities, generated money through interest or fraud or cheating or bribery, extortion, anything that's explicitly haram, that money actually is not zakatable. The only thing for that individual to clear his record with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to pay that money back to its legitimate owner if it is stolen money. If it is riba, for example, then he has to dispose that money. Inna Allah ta'ala tayyibun la yaqbalu illa tayyiba. Criteria of zakah payer. Who is supposed to pay zakatul mal? Zakatul mal actually is a religious obligation, one of the pillars of Islam. So one is a Muslim, it goes without saying. And number two, reaching the minimum threshold or the nisab. The nisab that we should care about here is nisab with dhahab, 85 grams of gold. As of today, the pure gram of gold, like the 24 karat, is around maybe $150, $160. So as of today, just imagine that your zakat due date is today and not the beginning of Ramadan. Then if you do have a net amount of 150 times 85 grams of gold, if you do have $12,750, net amount and not a gross amount. Net amount and not gross amount, then you have to pay zakah for this year. You are a zakah payer. If the net amount went below the 12,750, then you do not have to pay zakatul mal. Of course, you need to do your own due diligence in the zakat due date. Most of us here, if not even all of us, mark their calendar for the month of Ramadan to be our zakah month. Is that correct? In the month of Ramadan, you need to find out how much is the gold. Because the gold nowadays actually fluctuates, like goes up and down. Some people actually prefer to be in the very safe side. They want to go with nisab al-fidda, like the gram of silver is only $1.05, and the nisab is 595. The difference actually is huge. Difference is huge. If you want to go with 1.05 times 595, then if you do have like $620, then that is the nisab. Some of our mashayikh actually prefer to be in the safe side. They say, well, do not give a fatwa based on nisab al-dhahab, like the threshold of gold. Give a fatwa based on nisab al-fidda. That's way more beneficial for the needy individuals. In our fiqh council in MJ, actually, we go with the mainstream fatwa that nisab al-dhahab is the one to be considered and not nisab al-fidda. And that's actually very practical and makes more sense. If you do have 12,000 $750 with the assumption that the gram of gold is only $150, then if the net amount is still $12,750, then you have to pay zakah. Why I'm like repeating myself, the net amount? Because you might end up having hundreds of thousands of dollars. But simultaneously, you do have a lot of due debts. You have to pay the IRS. You have to pay for the mortgage, like the monthly payment. You have to pay for the car, for the furniture, for the appliances, some other due debts that you have to pay. And you keep actually deducting. If you deduct everything and you paid everything, if the remaining amount is still $12,750, then you have to pay zakah. But if you went below that nisab, then believe it or not, for that particular year, you are not a zakah payer. You don't have to pay. You can pay zakah if you would like to, but you do not have to pay zakat al-mal for that particular year. So this is actually what I mean by reaching the minimum threshold or the nisab. The passage of one lunar year, not for all zakatable wealth. Passage of one lunar year actually is a kind of confusing condition here that some people might misunderstand. This actually does not mean that each and every single payment you receive has to stay in your possession for one complete year. Let's say that you provide the professional service. You have your own law firm. You work as a consultant, engineer, architect, whatever. And you receive money like, periodically, almost every week, you receive money from your clients. Or like you work as a doctor, as a physician. And every now and then you receive money from your clients, right? Through the insurance or like directly from your clients. So if you want to go with the literal understanding of the passage of one lunar year, that means that each and every single payment has to be tracked and documented, and you sit on that amount for one complete year, and then you pay zakah on it, which is actually close to impossible, because if you want to go with this understanding, that means that you're going to end up having more than 250, 300 different zakat due date, which is absolutely incorrect. So what is the proper understanding of hawalan al-hawl? Once the nisab is established, is constituted, how much is the nisab? How much is the nisab? 12,750 as of today, right? That actually means that if that nisab stayed in your possession for one complete year, the nisab and whatever is added up on top of the nisab takes the same rule. Once the nisab is constituted, is established, then the default rule is that you are a zakah payer. You are a zakah payer. Now, whatever is added up on top of the nisab, like the surplus, the extra money, takes the same rule of the nisab. The nisab is $12,750. Few days before the beginning of the month of Ramadan, you received like a check, $25,000. And it was deposited in your account. And you do have a nisab and more. That $25,000, next day in the morning, if it is Ramadan, believe it or not, you have to pay zakah on it. Although actually it stayed in your account for how much? Like for how long? Maybe only one day. But it's still zakatable. Why? Because that's actually called the mal al-mustafad, like the extra money that has been added on top of the nisab. So back to the point here. The passage of one lunar year on the nisab itself, and whatever takes the same rule of the nisab. Let me bring to your attention another scenario here. Al-mal al-mustafad, like the extra money. Yes, it is to be added to the nisab as long as it comes from the same source of income, from the same regular source of income. Let's go back to our example. You work as an engineer or as a physician, and the nisab is already established a while ago in your checking account. You did actually inherit money from one of your relatives, $200,000. That money actually is not to be added to the nisab that you have, because that's a very irregular source of income. For that inherited money, for that mirath, right, you establish a new hawl. When did you receive the $200,000? I received them in Safar 17th of 1446. In Safar 17th, 1447, you have to pay zakah on that money if you still have that money and the money did not go below the nisab. If the money is spent, then whatever is spent is already spent. So for the regular income, you have your own zakat due date. You have your own hawl, fiscal lunar year. For any irregular income, you establish a new hawl for that source of income. So the passage of one lunar year, not for all zakatable wealth, As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said regarding zakah on agriculture products, وَآتُوا حَقَّهُ يَوْمَ حَصَادِهِ. So if you have like more than one season, if you're like a farmer, especially here in Texas, and you have like more than one season, okay, and the cultivation day, you have to pay zakah. Maybe once, maybe twice, maybe thrice, whatever the case might be. Otherwise, like for the vast majority of us here, you pay your zakah only once a year, and you mark your calendar, for the month of Ramadan. Now, the status of the zakah payer does not matter at all. Whether that zakah payer is a minor, like mentally stable, unstable, it does not make any difference. Even if that wealthy individual is just a minor, like an infant, right? His legal guardian has to pay zakah on his behalf. Someone would ask a question: what is the difference between salah and siyam from one side and zakah from the other side? Why those kids are not mandated to perform salah and siyam and hajj? Because those ibadat actually are physical ibadat. Those ibadat are physical ibadat. Okay? And because of like mental limitation, they do not have to pray 5 times daily and perform siyam and hajj. But when it comes to zakah, it's a financial ibadah. So the legal guardian or the person in charge of that individual has to take care of his or her zakah on his behalf. So the adulthood, the puberty, orphanage, and insanity, whatever the limitation might be, does not affect the zakatability of the world. Someone has to take care of that zakah and pay it on behalf of that minor or that incapable individual. Criteria for zakatable wealth. Now we discussed the criteria for the zakah payer, like the person who pays zakatul mal. How about the criteria for the zakatable wealth? Number 1, exclusive ownership of threshold, which means that if we do have a nisab, but that nisab actually is jointly owned by more than one individual. Jointly owned by more than one individual. Especially if the other individual is a non-Muslim. Someone has a very, very small business and its value actually is $13,000. So confidently hit the nisab, right? But the problem here is that the other business partner is a non-Muslim. So the share of the Muslim is less than 13,000, way less than 13,000, right? Maybe 50%, 60% of the amount. That Muslim business partner does not have to pay zakah. Does not have to pay. Why? Because his share actually did not constitute a nisab. What if the two individuals are Muslims? Okay. Then in this case, actually, we do apply what's called zakatul sharikat. Like we treat that wealth or that nisab as if it is owned by one individual, because that's called the sharika, a kind of like partnership. So according to the Shafi'i madhab and some other madhab, we don't care about how many people actually own that business. That business itself, okay, as a corporate person, not a real individual, is a zakatable, and then we have to pay zakah. We have to pay zakah on it, even though the share of each and every single individual in that partnership does not constitute a nisab. That's called zakatu sharikat. So the exclusive ownership is number 1. Ability for growth, actually or potentially. Any growable asset is zakatable. You paid last year zakah on the harvest or the agricultural products, and you decided to keep that harvest for like maybe one complete year. Next year, do you still have to pay zakah on the agricultural products? The answer is no, because that's not a growable asset.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So inshallah, we're going to have a shorter break at 3 p.m. inshallah. We have refreshments in the back. So 3 p.m. we'll have refreshments in the back inshallah. A few minutes and they will come back bismillah azza wa jal.
So that is the passage of one lunar year. Now there is another condition here, which is access to the wealth, actually or potentially. So ability of growth, as I said, if you do have cash money, okay, or whatever takes the same rule of cash money, if you sit in that money for one complete year, Next year, actually, in the same day, that money is still zakatable. Why? Because it is a growable one. If you have decided not to invest the money, that's your call. I mean, no one can enforce you to invest the money, but actually you are enforced by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to pay zakat. And this is a kind of indirect push or encouragement for you not to sit in the money, rather to invest the money, right? To set off the 2.5% zakat rate and the inflation or the reduction in the purchase power that your wealth is experiencing because of the inflation. So the passage of 1 lunar year, access to the wealth actually or potentially. This is actually called in Arabic الملك التام رقبة ويدا. الملك التام رقبة ويدا. Full ownership and full access. If you do own a certain asset or property or wealth, but you have a very, very limited access to it. Very good example for us here in the US, your 401k. Your 401k actually is your money, whether your contribution or the match of your employer. Everything that you have in your 401k account actually is your money. But the problem here is that you do not have a full access to it. And that's why you don't have to pay like 100% on the value of the 401k, as I will be, inshallah, explaining. So access to the wealth, if you do not have access whatsoever to that particular asset, okay? Example, pension plan. If you work for the, like for the government, for the federal, for the state, for the county, they do not give you 401k, they give you a pension plan. And to my knowledge, I might be wrong, to my knowledge, this pension plan actually is inaccessible. You cannot even touch it. Even if you apply for hardship or you try to borrow from it, no way. If that is proven, then believe it or not, your pension plan is zakah exempt, temporary, until you have an access to that account, and then you start paying zakah on it. Okay, so this is like a brief summary of what we have discussed. Let me take a few questions. Please limit yourself to only one question within whatever we have covered. So far we covered only the zakatable as opposed to non-zakatable wealth. If you have a question, please go ahead. Correct. What if you want? Vacant, no zakah on it. Absolutely no zakah. But if you change your mind, if you put it for sale, that's completely different discussion. From the time that you put it for sale, you need to count one complete year, okay? And after 1 year, as long as that property is active in the market for sale, even if it is not sold, you still have to pay zakah on it. Why? Because actually it became urud al-tijar, right? It became like a commodity for for active in the market. Then you have to pay zakah on it, even if it is not sold, based on the market value of that property in the zakah due date. Let me take from the sister side. Any question? Good to go? تفضل. It's coming soon. It's coming. Yeah, it's coming. Right. No. No. I think, Habibna, you are kind of confusing yourself. You said last year you were not a zakah payer. Well, last year actually you did not reach any nisab. So, طيب. Once you hit $12,750, officially speaking, that's the beginning of your fiscal lunar year. That's another point, inshallah, I'll be discussing. Let's say that you constituted a nisab in Rajab 25th. Officially speaking, that's the beginning of your fiscal lunar year. In Rajab 25th of next year, if you still have 12,750 or more, all what you have there actually is zakatable. take like a screenshot, a snapshot on your checking account, how much you have in the zakat due date, which is the 25th of Rajab. It's not Ramadan. Okay, if it is nisab, and 1 year already passed, right? Like again, you constituted the nisab back in 25th of Rajab of last year, 1446. 25th of Rajab, 1447. If you still have a nisab or more, then you have to pay zakah. The total amount. Total amount. Okay. Yes, you pay zakah on the 200,000. No. تفضل. Fluctuate. We have two different opinions here. First one is that we don't care about the fluctuation, even if it went below the nisab, as long as your nisab is like reconstituted, recovered in the zakat due date, which is the opinion that I adopt, right? And if you still have a nisab or more in the regular zakat due date, then regardless of what happened throughout the whole year long, we don't care. You have to pay zakah. Another opinion, which is I think the Hanbali one, they said no. Once you go below the nisab, then your zakat due date actually is just ruined. So whenever you reconstitute a nisab, you need to find out which day, okay, you recovered, and you start counting from that day on all the way one complete year. So if you want to go with my opinion, forget about the fluctuation. As long as you set your calendar for Ramadan the 1st, every Ramadan the 1st, if you still have a nisab, then all what you have actually is zakatable. Not the total amount, not the gross amount, the net amount. طيب. Sisters, one more time. So far so good. تفضل يا أخت. Long-term investment, as long as that land is not active in the market, it is zakah exempt. Zakah exempt, no. طيب تفضل يا شيخ. No, that's according to the Maliki madhab, because Imam Malik radiallahu anhu does differentiate between a tajir al-muhtakir wa tajir al-mudir, like to explain the background of the Maliki madhab. Imam Malik does differentiate between the active and the inactive merchant. The active one is the one who is like, the one who buys and sells, like whatever he buys is actually for sale immediately on the spot. So he's like very active in the market, buying and selling, buying and selling. For that individual, actually, he does have to pay zakah on everything. If that tajir is tajir muhtakir, doesn't mean that he's like monopolizing, no. It means that he uses a certain technique, like he buys a property and just sleeps on it for maybe few weeks, few months until the price goes up, and then he put it for sale. So he said for a tajir muhtakir, whatever he has, as long as that commodity or merchandise is not actively in the market for sale, it is zakah exempt. So what the sister actually was asking about is like fits perfectly fine within the criteria of a tajir al-muhtakir. That piece of land actually is a long-term investment. You bought it maybe 10, 15 years ago with the plan that whenever your kids grow up and go to college, you will sell it. It's just a plan. But for the time being, at the zakat due date, it's off the market. If that is the case, no zakah on it. Clear? طيب, all the way in the back. تفضل أخي. I think we would explain that. We said that you find out the market value of the commodities and the merchandise that you have in the zakat due date, and you pay zakah on it. You find out the market value of the merchandise that you have or the products that are for sale in the zakat due date, and you pay zakah on them accordingly. It's coming soon, inshallah. But briefly, do not go with the retail value. Do not go with the invoice value. Go with something called wholesale market value. I'll explain it, inshallah. تفضل. You're good to go. It's coming, inshallah. It's coming. It's coming. Yes, sir. The- Same question, inshallah. It's coming soon. Yeah, give me just a few minutes. تفضل أخي. I'm sorry. I cannot hear you well. You pay zakah on the beginning of Ramadan of each year, okay? It depends on which property. Was it a commodity, a merchandise, or your? So you have a piece of land off the market, okay? Hmm. If you want to be in the safe side, yes, add it up to the nisab that you have and pay zakah on it because it has been a while you did not pay zakah on it. But if you're gonna go with the book, I mean, you can wait for that money for one complete year because that's again, this is an irregular income because that land stayed off the market for years and years. So you can confidently count it as a irregular income. But again, to be in the safe side, I would highly recommend that you add it up, the money to the whatever you have and pay zakah on everything. طيب. تفضلي. Yes, not the jewelry. Jewelry is completely different discussion. Like gold, yeah, gold bars. Actually, that's a business. I mean, this is a commodity. This is a merchandise. It's something that does have intrinsic value. If you keep it, you have to pay zakah on it. Even if you keep it like as a long-term investment, it takes the same rule of the cash money that you have. Thus, it is zakatable in full every single year. Every single year. طيب, let me, yes. It's coming soon. طيب. It's coming soon. طيب, let me continue. Very last question, تفضل أخي. Yes, sir. If they are different in nature, agriculture product has its own حول. Right? وآتوا حقه يوم حصاده. If it is livestock, right? If it is cash money, okay. Other sources of income, most probably, they have the same حول, because they belong to the same individual, right? So you are the responsible party for all these different zakatable assets, right? In most cases that I came across, yes, I mean the beginning of the month of Ramadan is the zakat due date for all what those individuals have, with their business, with their rental properties, with their, investment in technology, retirement account. They just put everything, together in the zakat due date, which is the beginning of Ramadan, and they pay the zakat accordingly. But can we move on? Okay. Threshold as opposed to poverty line. Some people actually get confused. They think that if someone is under the poverty line, that individual is a zakat recipient. Poverty line is just an economic/governmental standard to determine eligibility of individuals receiving some, financial, monetary, non-monetary support from the government, right? That has absolutely nothing to do with the threshold. In other words, not every single individual under the poverty line is a zakat recipient. And believe it or not, some people might be way above the poverty line, yet they are eligible zakat recipient. Someone nowadays makes $80,000, $90,000, barely can catch up with his expenses. Maybe like his kids go to college with no financial aid, with no scholarship, with no grants, no nothing. Barely can afford, paying for their tuition fees and their living expenses. Sometimes he runs behind. That individual actually is an eligible zakat recipient, although he makes a good income, right? But in reality, as long as the legitimate expenses are above or more than the income, then that individual actually is an eligible zakat recipient. If he applies for zakat for the masjid here, his application might be denied because of the limited funding, because of other people might have priority over him. But this actually does not make him ineligible. He's still an eligible zakat recipient. So do not get confused between the threshold and the poverty line. Someone might be under the poverty line, yet does have a threshold. Okay, for example, livestock. Someone doesn't make $25,000 a year, right, income. So according to the government here, he or she is under the poverty line. But that individual does have like 40, let's say, sheep or goat. Does he have to pay zakah or not? He has to pay zakah on the livestock that he has. So that's the threshold. Combining assets to reach a nisab, you don't have to, if those assets belong to different categories. You have cash and whatever is equivalent to cash. Okay, it's only $3,000 or $4,000. Although the nisab is how much? 12,750, right? And you do have some agriculture products that are less than khamsa to awsaq, 1440 something pounds. And you do have maybe like livestock, but the head count that you have are only 3 or 4 sheep or goat or lamb. Do you have to add up all these different, zakatable assets? The answer is absolutely no, because each one of them does have its own criteria, its own threshold, its own shurut and conditions for paying zakah. So to answer the question, you do not have to combine different assets to reach a nisab. However, if those zakatable assets belong to the same category, you have some gold bars, and you have some American dollars and Jordanian dinars, right? And you have some cash available in hand and some money in your checking account and some cryptocurrency. Yes, they belong to zakatul naqdain. So you have to add up everything together: gold, silver, cash, cryptocurrency nowadays, investment in the stock market, because even if you have 401k, you can liquidate all what you have in just a few days. So that stocks that you have, or that financial instruments that you have in the stock market, actually are equivalent to cash money, thus zakatable. Consistency of possessing the threshold, to my knowledge, regardless of the fluctuation, that's your question, regardless of the fluctuation that you might experience and the threshold and the nisab, doesn't make a difference. If your zakat due date is well established, you have been paying zakah for the last few years, right? And your zakah is the beginning of the month of Ramadan. It might happen every now and then that you go below the nisab. It doesn't make a difference. As long as you recover, you recover, and whenever it is Ramadan, the beginning, Ramadan the first, like after a few days from now, you still have a nisab or more, then you have to pay zakah, regardless of the fluctuation and the fact that you went below the nisab. This is one opinion. Other opinion is that no, once you go below the nisab, then you have to start all over. Like whenever you recover, you find out which day of the year, okay, you reconstitute, you recover the nisab. That is the beginning of your fiscal lunar year, right? You wait one complete year, and then next year in the same day you pay zakatul mal. Salaries and professional fees. Do not worry about the cash flow. As I said before, you might work as a self-employed, as a consultant. You have your own consultation firm, law firm. You work as an engineer. You have your own practice, and you receive money every now and then. Okay. Do not worry about the cash flow that you experience throughout the whole year long. You don't need to keep track of every single payment. 5,000 yesterday, 25,000 last week. Forget about all these details, okay? Just keep receiving money and spending money, bil ma'roof, right? Bil ma'roof, based on your need. In the zakat due date, let's say the beginning of Ramadan, how much you have in that checking account that is coming or that came from the same source of income, that is actually the zakatable part. This is actually where you start the math from. If you ended up in the beginning of Ramadan having $75,000, that is actually the base of your calculation. How much you owe the IRS, how much you owe the mortgage company, how much you owe, the car dealership for your car, for the, whatever you have, appliances, furniture, or whatever. Okay, how much due debts that you have, you put them aside. How much you need for your own personal expenses, like for the living expenses for yourself and your family members, you put it aside. Here is an issue. Whatever you put aside, it has to be paid. It has to be paid, right? You cannot, in our example, you cannot put $5,000 for the mortgage for calculation purposes, and then you bring those 5,000 back. So whatever you put aside, actually, it has to be paid. Okay? If you still owe the IRS $25,000, you cannot put them aside for calculation, like to reduce the zakah and then like you bring the money back. No, whatever you put aside has to be paid. That's one thing. The other thing, let's say for example, you ended up having $200,000 cash available, zakatable money, and the zakat due date, and you owe the mortgage company between principal and interest. I'm not saying mortgage haram or halal, that's a completely different discussion. Okay, in the zakat due date, you found out that you owe the mortgage company $200,000. But the monthly mortgage that you have to pay is only $3,000. Which one of them is deductible? $3,000 only, because that is the due that you have to pay. What if you decided to pay, like to buy out the house, like to pay everything? Do you think that you can pay off the $200,000 and get a clear title for your house, and consequently you will be zakah exempt? Can you do that? Yes, you can. Because actually, according to the amortization system that we all know in the US, you do have the right to prepay. Is that correct? In fact, whatever you prepay, whatever you like pay on top of the monthly mortgage will be going toward the principal, and consequently reduces the interest. Is that correct? Because the interest actually is calculated based on the duration. Am I correct? So if the outstanding balance is $200,000, and you said, you know what, I want to just get rid of that riba, I want to just repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no zakah for this year, I decided to pay the $200,000, for the mortgage company, just close that deal and get a clear title. If you decide to do so out of tawbah and repentance to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because actually classical traditional mortgage is not allowed, number one. And if you pay it and get a clear title, then actually you went way below the nisab. In fact, you went actually down to zero, and consequently there is no zakah required, to be paid at that particular. Can you do that? Yes, you can. Do you have to do so? No, you do not. You do not have to. So whatever is spent on personal and family expenses prior to the zakah due date is not subject to zakah, as I already explained. Okay. Again, forget about the cash flow. You don't need to keep track of every single payment. Whatever you have in the zakah due date, you start the math from that amount on. You put aside all the deductibles, all the due debts, whatever you owe others, and the net amount of it is still $12,750. Then you have to pay zakah. Otherwise, you're good to go for that particular. You don't have to pay zakat al-mal. There is actually a well-established debate between the four different madhahib regarding zakah on jewelry. Okay, I'm not here actually to discourage anyone from paying zakat al-mal on jewelry. If you are like a strict Hanafi follower and you pay zakah on the jewelry every year, keep up the good job. The more zakah you pay, inshallah, the more reward you will be getting from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if you ask me a question, do I have to pay zakah on the jewelry? My answer is no, you don't have to pay zakah. Number one, as long as the zakah is within the average that other sisters or ladies that have in that particular society, okay, in general. I would say nowadays, is it safe enough to say that the average is 30,000, 40,000? If a woman is married and they have good income, is it reasonable enough to say 30,000? 30,000? Whosoever has $30,000 as of today worth of jewelry, okay, for her personal use, not for investment purposes. And the personal use actually does not mean that she has to use every single piece of jewelry every single day. No, it means that that jewelry is designated for her, right? She might use it like once in a while whenever there's a reception or wedding or whatever munasabah, okay? As long as that jewelry is designated for her, not for business, not for trading, buying and selling, number one. And number two, within the average in that particular society, then the jewelry actually is zakah exempt. You don't have to pay zakah on it. You don't have to. Can you pay zakah? Yes, you can. Do you have to pay zakah? The answer is no. If one of those two conditions actually is not met, then actually the jewelry is zakatable. If that lady actually has $100,000, well, that's way too much. Okay, she can actually, excuse herself from paying zakah on the first 30,000 because that's the average, right? And the 70 extra $1,000 are zakatable. That's one scenario. And the other scenario, if that jewelry actually is for business purposes. Actually, I came across some like couples who make a deal, like the husband and wife, they just keep shopping around and they watch the news. Whenever the gold actually goes up, they sell whatever they have, and whenever it goes down, they buy. So they make it like they take it as a business. If that is their common practice, then all what she has, as long as the amount is $12,750 or more, then actually it is zakatable. Now, when we say that the average is zakat exempt and the surplus is zakatable, this is a kind of consolidation or talfiq between the madhab, like we are adding the Shafi'i and the Hanafi madhab together. Okay, we go with the Shafi'i one by saying the average is not is zakat exempt, and we go with the Hanafi that the extra amount, okay, the surplus amount actually is zakatable. Otherwise, if you want to go with the Hanafi madhab, which is I think the madhab of the vast majority of our brothers and sisters from the Indo-Pak community, if that is the case, then yes, I mean you have to pay zakah on everything that you have. In our example, the $70,000 or $100,000, everything actually is zakatable according to your madhab. Retirement fund, as I said, whatever you have in your 401k actually is yours. It could be 401k, the most famous account. It could be 403b if you work for non-for-profit organizations or work for education institutes, right? So whatever the case might be, all what you have in your 401k is your money, whether it is your contribution or the match of your employer, right? Everything actually is yours. Problem here is that not with the ownership, with the accessibility, you do not have an access to it. Okay. Now, because of this, argument that this is your money, but it should be untouchable, we do have three different schools here, like within people of knowledge. Some ulama said, believe that all what you have in the 401k is zakatable in full. That is the big chunk of money that you have, and you have to pay zakah on it. That's one opinion. And others said no. I mean, since this is an untouchable, or you're not supposed to touch your 401k until the age of retirement, or la samahallah in case of death or disability, then actually you don't have to pay zakah on it. In our fiqh council in Amja, we hold the stick from the middle. We do not say that you have to pay zakah on everything. We don't have to, we do not say that this is zakah exempt. We say that you go with the withdrawable amount. If you are to apply for a loan, like if you want to borrow from your 401k, or if you want to apply for hardship, how much access you will be having to? 50%, 60%, right? Do the math. Let's say that you do have a straight $500,000 worth of investment in your 401k. And your zakat due date is the beginning of the month of Ramadan. If you are to borrow and to apply for hardship, how much you will be getting? You need to consult with your financial advisor, okay? Or with the investment company. It could be Fidelity, it could be Schwab, Vanguard. Let's say that, for example, the maximum that you can withdraw, maximum, between hardship and loan that you take from your 401k is 50%. So the accessible amount is how much? 250 in our example, right? If you decide, bear in mind that this is a very theoretical math. You don't have to physically apply. It's just like a way to find out, to calculate the zakah. If you decide to proceed, how much, the net amount, like the take-home amount, how much it will be? Let's say around 200,000. So 50,000 between tax and penalty, processing fees, you name it. Okay. The net amount is how much in our example? 200,000. $200,000 is zakatable. Now you have two options. Either to be in the safe side and to pay zakah on the $200,000 based on 2.5% zakat rate, or if you want, maybe you can deduct another 15, another 20, another 25%. Okay, fixed assets is zakah exempt, and you pay zakah on the 75% of that net amount. Fixed assets actually means those equipments and machineries and offices and furniture, okay, and non-zakatable assets that companies have. Each company actually does not have, like the stocks that you hold in the stock market, does not represent 100% commodity and merchandise. Is that correct? Certain percentage of that stock actually belongs to, fixed assets, maybe offices, furniture, software, hardware, security system, equipment, tools, and so on and so forth. So rough estimate between 20 to 25% would be safe enough. You can put it aside, okay, excuse yourself from paying zakah on it, and you pay zakah on the rest. If you want to take my advice, do not deduct 20% fixed pay zakah on everything. And I want you to do yourself a favor. Do not open the discussion of the nature of the stocks that you have. Okay. Are those stocks in my portfolio belong to agricultural company, technology, IT, education, engineering, entertainment? I mean, this is an endless discussion, because if you open that discussion, okay, it will never end up. Okay, just look at, like, think of the portfolio as just like a chunk of money, right? Like cash dollars. Put aside 20-25% maximum fixed assets and pay zakah on the rest based on 2.5% zakat rate. If you pay your zakah in the month of Ramadan, according to the lunar calendar, and 2.575 if you pay your zakah in the month of December, right? So here is the formula: withdrawable amount minus any prescribed penalty and a prescribed tax, and the zakatable amount actually is like the net amount is zakatable based on 2.5%. You can deduct, I would say, even up, up to 20%. That would be fine. This actually opens the floor for more discussion about investing in the stock markets. Okay, what kind of financial instruments we have? Let me just pause here and take maybe a few questions briefly. Please limit yourself to one question and just make it straightforward to the point. Yes, sir. It's coming soon. Coming soon. Vested or not vested? Not vested? Well, if it is not vested, okay, like whatever comes from your employer and it's not vested yet, it's not yours. It's not yours. Can you take that money? طيب تفضل. You need to go with the maximum withdrawable amount. With the maximum withdrawable amount. If you are to withdraw as much as you can between a loan that you borrow from your 401k, although it's not a loan, by the way. I mean, they call it a loan, but it's not. It's halal, right? As well as if you apply for hardship, how much you will be getting total. That is the withdrawable. That's the withdrawable amount or the accessible amount. And then you do the math. How much you have to pay. How much you have to pay tax, right, and penalty because of the like early withdrawal. Okay, what is the net amount? What is the take-home amount? That's the zakatable one. You either pay zakah on 100% of that remaining amount, or you can deduct up to 20%. Sisters, good to go. تفضل. Prepaying zakatul mal, as long as you have the proper intention that whatever I'm paying now to support my masjid or guidance college, for example, is from my zakatul mal. That's number one. And number two, as long as you are almost positive, like you did your own due diligence, your own investigation, you found out that this recipient is an eligible zakah one. Eligible zakah one, then whatever you prepay will be counted against your zakah. Is that clear? I'm not sure if I understood your question. I'm sorry. Like maybe we can talk like an individual in the break, inshallah. Let me continue. Last question. تفضل أخي الكريم. the property actually is legally yours. You own it. عرفت أخي? You have they call it equitable ownership, right? But in the Islamic finance system, there is a difference between the legal ownership and the indebtedness. Like even if you owe 100% of the price of that land, at the end of the day, it is yours. So that zakat, I mean, that land is zakatable based on the use of the land. Is it like rental property? You rent it to others and you make money. Whatever money you generate from that land actually is zakatable. However, in the zakat due date, you can deduct whatever you have to pay from the loan of that land. You owe a certain amount of money, okay? You get involved in an installment, right? Whatever like payment is due in the zakat due date is the deductible one, not the whole amount. Only whatever is due at in the zakat due date. No, not the difference. You deduct the payment. How much you pay monthly on that land? $5,000. That $5,000 is deductible. You put it aside and you pay zakat on the rest. Whatever lease revenue, rent money that you received is zakatable. What is deductible is the 5,000, our example, that you pay, toward the price of the land. Was that? Yes. Whatever is due. Whatever is due. Unless, as I said, unless you decide to pay off everything in full and to get a clear title, that's your call. I mean, no one can stop you. طيب, let's move on. يا شيخ تفضل.
Try this one.
Yeah. So basically, I sold the home and make the profit. And then the financial advisor says, sir, you can save the money to prevent the taxing for Uncle Sam. You can avoid that by investing in another investment. So what I did, I used that profitable money and bought another property in order to avoid the tax for Uncle Sam. Is that Islamic?
Did you pay another property for like as a rental, residential, commercial?
It's a residential to avoid the tax for Uncle Sam. I made profit.
Did you buy the second property to live in it or just to circumvent the rules
Invest.
in a legal way? For investment purposes? You
Invest.
purchased a house?
It was invest.
Well, we go in this case actually with your intention. Okay, your intention actually was to buy a property for investment purposes.
Yeah, and avoid tax.
Which is fine. I mean, taxation has nothing to do with the zakah here.
I
So in this case, I mean, with that cash money that you have, if you put it in a property for investment purposes, in a sense that you do have a plan, okay, to sell that house, right? It is an investment. It's not residential. It's not rental. It is investment, like for sale. Is that correct?
Yeah. It's an investment, and I'm getting the rent from that investment monthly.
So it's not investment. It is rental property. They call
Rental property, but I made the
Sure.
amount and I invested in that.
Then the lease revenue, the rent money that you generate,
Yes,
is the zakatable one. Whatever money you put in that house is zakat exempt.
zakatable. Yeah.
طيب, let's break maybe for 5 minutes. For 5 minutes, inshallah, and we'll come back. So 5 minutes, inshallah, break, okay, with no questions during the break, and then inshallah, when we come back, we'll continue.
Okay, assalamu alaikum. We don't want to interrupt mashallah, the refreshments. But inshallah, Doctor would like to start because we have an hour left, inshallah. We have an hour and a few minutes before Maghrib, for Asr.
طيب. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ba'd. So our discussion regarding the retirement fund brings another very relevant discussion, which is the investment in the stock market in general. Now let's keep it simple. Keep it simple. If you want to categorize the investment in the stock market, you can come up with two major categories: employer-based investment, as opposed to individual-based investment. What is the difference here? The main difference actually is the accessibility. In most cases, if you have a employer-based investment account or retirement account, you end up having a very limited access to that investment. If it is otherwise, if it is an individual-based retirement account, in most cases, you do have an access to 100% of the amount. What kind of difference it makes? Okay. Calculation-wise, it doesn't make any difference because the formula actually is the same. You go with the withdrawable amount minus any like prescribed penalty, tax, administration fees, whatever. Net amount actually is zakatable one. Net amount is zakatable one. In reality, the withdrawable amount could be 30%, 40%, 50% if it is employer-based investment account, and it is 100% in most cases if it is individual retirement account. That's one thing. The other thing, as you see here, financial instruments actually vary between stocks, derivatives, options, futures. Okay. As a practicing Muslim, I want you to stay away, far away from anything else other than stocks. No options, no derivatives, no futures, no CDS, no DCO, like different kinds of derivatives. Because the well-established fatwa nowadays is that as a practicing Muslim, you have to limit yourself to stocks, okay, that belong to halal business. Stocks belong to halal business. And there is another criteria, like sub-criteria here. Debt asset ratio has to be to the minimum. Interest investment has to be to the minimum. Interest income has to be to the minimum. Maybe this website can help you determining the Sharia compliance. Go to Atina, atina.co. Okay, this is an Islamic investment company, and I serve on their board as a Sharia consultant for this company. That's me. So you go ahead and just enter the code of the stock that you are interested in, and the system automatically will generate a very short report for you. Okay, take for example Walmart. Yeah, Atina, AATINAA.co. Atina.co. It's not .com.co. So that's Walmart. You know what? I'll give you Apple. How about this? And I'm putting my contact lenses so I cannot see it well. APP. This one? This one. AAPL. Okay. You will be surprised here that this stock is not a Atina or is not a Sharia compliant. This is the criteria that I was referring to. Okay. We pay attention to something called debt market cap or debt asset ratio. As long as it is less than 25% should be good. Interest bearing less than 25% should be good. Interest income 0, which is fine. Product line. Now, this website actually is a kind of over-conservative a little bit. My recommendation, although I'm the Sharia consultant of this company, but my recommendation, if any stock that you are interested in passes the top 3 checklist, 1, 2, 3, then go for it, even if it is failed, the fourth one, the product line. Now, they have a very conservative criteria here. If they do have any doubt about the, a side business, what they mean by the product line is the side business. They said that, well, when it comes to Apple in particular, they do have their own credit card company, and we do not know how much interest they make from that company. They do have like a TV channel. We do not know what kind of episode and TV shows that they have, right? So that's why they do not feel comfortable investing in Apple. But my recommendation, if you want to invest in any stock, go to this website. It is authentic enough, right? If any stock of your choice passes the top 3, failed the fourth one, it's still Sharia compliant. Go for it. Clear? طيب. Let's go to our discussion here. So you have to limit yourself to stocks only that belong to companies where their core business is a halal one. Stay away from bonds, because bond actually is none but an interest-bearing loan. Sometimes they call it T-bill. Regardless of how much interest you make, at the end of the day, it's an interest. You lend the government, the federal or the state, money, and you receive it with interest. That's haram. It should not be an option for you as a practicing Muslim. So stay away from bonds, from derivatives, from options, from futures. Limit yourself only and only to stocks. Speaking of stocks here, usually you have one of two different options. You either use that account as an exploited assets, like an inactive account, which means that you purchase stocks, you deposit them there, but they are not for trading purposes. You are very, very happy with the dividend that you make every year. If that is your common practice, then you do not have to pay zakah on everything that you have. You pay zakah on the dividend itself. Whether you withdraw it or you capitalize it, like you keep it by buying more instruments, more stocks, it doesn't make any difference. You need to pay zakah on the dividend only. And this case actually is identical to any rental property that you have. If you hold a rental property, we said several times that the market value of the property itself is not zakatable. You pay zakah on the rent. Is that correct? If you have an Uber service or taxi cab, you don't pay. You don't have to pay zakah on the value of the car. You pay zakah on the money that you make. Likewise, if you hold those stocks in the market, you pay zakah on the dividend. You see the consistency here? Okay. Now, this is a very rare and very irregular case. Okay. Vast majority of the investments in the stock market are very active accounts. If you are not the one who is making the business and trading and buying and selling, the mutual fund company or the investment company or the financial advisor is the one who's doing the job on your behalf. So unless you can prove that a certain account, maybe brokerage account, and you are like the one who runs that account, okay, if it is proven that this account is very inactive, you do not usually trade in the market. You are very, very happy with whatever dividend you make. In this very particular case, you pay zakah on the dividend only, right? Otherwise, the default rule is that all what you have between the dividend and the market value or the book value of the stocks, actually everything there is zakatable based on the net amount that you receive. If you are to sell, how much you have to pay for the broker, how much you have to pay tax, whatever, do the math. Net amount actually is the zakatable one based on 2.5% zakat rate. So those are the two different like scenarios, either to treat the stocks as an exploited asset or as a trading asset. Trading asset, you pay zakah on everything. Book value, dividend, everything there actually is zakatable. Exploited assets, which is a very, very irregular, and it's hard to prove, by the way. Some people do have accounts in a mutual fund, and they think that those accounts are inactive, which is absolutely wrong. The mutual fund company is the one actually who is doing the business in your behalf, and that's why you make money, right? So you have to pay zakah on everything that you have, not only on the dividend. Maybe you did not know, or some people might not know that holding bonds actually is not allowed. That's fine. I completely understand. From now on, do not purchase any bonds. And once the T-bill or the bond actually is mature, you receive the principal and the interest, you need to dispose the interest, but the principal is still zakatable. Okay, if it was 5,000 and you received it 6,000 after 1 or 2 years, that 1,000, they call it dividend, they call it interest, call it whatever you want, is a haram money that you have to dispose it. Yet you pay zakah on the principal amount. And again, from now on, do not even come closer to the bonds. Do not trade in bond. Just limit yourself to stocks that belong to halal business. So that's the bond. Okay. Other financial instruments between options, futures, derivatives, the vast majority, I don't want to be like extremely conservative, but the vast majority of those financial instruments actually are not halal. Stay away from options, from futures, from, they call them derivatives. Limit yourself to stocks and only stocks. When it comes to zakat al-diyun, Prophet ﷺ did not mention anything whatsoever regarding zakat al-dayn. Now, when there is a dayn, when there is a loan involved here, we have two parties. We have the lender, the loaner, the lender, and we have the borrower. Okay, there is no way for both parties to pay zakah on the amount, and there is no way to excuse both of them. Someone actually has to pay the money. Someone has to pay zakah. Okay, we said several times that one of the conditions for the zakatability of any wealth that you have is al-mulku tam raqabatan wa yadan, full ownership and full access. If you are the lender, you are the one who gave $20,000 to your Muslim brother or sister in the community. Do you still have an access to that money? Do you still have an access to that money? Okay, I mean, technically, legally, you are the owner of the money, but you do not have an access to it. Then you are zakah exempt. You don't have to pay zakah on that loan. Now, who else has to pay zakah here? The borrower, believe it or not. If the borrower actually has decided to keep that money, we said in our example 20,000, which is a nisab, I mean, just to be in the safe side. If he or she decided to keep that money with him for one complete year, then he has to pay zakah on it. For you as a lender, do not worry about that money. Okay, wait until you receive the money. And then after one complete year, you pay zakah on it. This is a very, very debatable issue. Prophet ﷺ did not mention anything regarding zakat al-dayn. And that's why the Sahaba radiallahu anhum were not in full agreement. The Tabi'een, the founders of the Madhahib, Abu Hanifa, Malik, Shafi'i, Ahmed, right? Contemporary fiqh councils, okay? Always like the same disagreement is there. What I mentioned here actually is one of the opinions of the Hanbali madhab, which is actually the original fatwa of Ummuna Aisha radiallahu anha, Ikrimah ibn Abi Jahl, and Abdullah ibn Umar. The three actually, those respected companions, are of the opinion that the lender does not have to pay zakah. Okay. Some scholars said no, the lender is the one who has to pay zakah, especially if the loan is guaranteed. If it is a secured loan and you do have an access to it, you can get the money whenever you want, then you have to pay zakah on it. My opinion, do not follow that opinion. Do not follow it. Because if you have to pay zakah, we are punishing the lenders. We are discouraging people from lending others money. When you lend others money, you do them a favor, right? You do not expect any reward other than the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As a practicing Muslim, you are not expecting any interest to be paid on top of the principal. Is that correct? How come that you are deprived from using your money and making profit? And on top of that, like that money might stay with the borrower maybe for 1, 2, 3 years. And good luck if you get your money back, especially if you give your a loan to a Muslim brother, then good luck, right? So you stay 3 years deprived from investing the money and making profit. And on top of that khasara, that loss, you still have to pay 2.5% zakah. That is actually way too much. And if there is any ayah or hadith that you have to pay zakat, then we would say sami'na wa ata'na, we listen and we obey. But there is no evidence that the lender does have to pay zakah. And that's why lender does not have to pay zakah. Give others money, keep up the good job, help others during their financial difficulties and hardship, but do not pay zakah on that money. Wait until you receive the money, and that money stay in your possession for one complete year, and then you pay zakah. If you pay attention to the zakah issue, you will easily realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a hikmah behind it. He wants you to keep that money for one complete year, to give you enough chance to invest the money and to make a profit within 1 year. That's a plenty of time. You can make a business and make some money, okay, profit. From that profit, you pay the zakah. But if you give your money to others as a qardun hasan for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, anticipating nothing other than the reward, right? And you lose a lot because of the inflation, you lose money, right? Like the purchase power of the money is going down significantly, especially post COVID-19. Am I correct? Right? So you are deprived from keeping the money. Okay, the purchase power of the money is going down, and on top of that, you pay 2.5%, zakat al-mal. That's way too much for the lenders. So do not pay zakah on the loan that you gave to other people. Wait until you receive it, invest it, make some good profit, halal profit. From that profit, you pay 2.5% zakah on that money. Mortgage and other payments, any due payment, whether like for a halal payment or otherwise, it doesn't make a difference. Okay, classical traditional mortgage in the USA is not a halal option for Muslims. It is not. However, if someone does have a mortgage, to pay, then whatever payment that's due in the zakat due date is a deductible one. We said maybe once or twice that you do have the option of paying off, like buying out the house in full. Okay, that's another option. If the outstanding balance is $100,000 to get a clear title between principal and interest, and you do have $100,000 zakatable money. If you decide to pay on the spot on the zakat due date, if you decide to pay the $100,000 debt, although it's not that due, but it is payable. I mean, you can pay it if you would like to. If that is your choice, go ahead and just get a clear title, get rid of that mortgage, that loan, outstanding balance, and for that very particular year, you are zakah exempt. Whatever payment due for the car, for the furniture, for whatever you have is deductible. Even like your living expenses, how much you spend in your utility bills, your groceries, your gas, and whatever. 2, 3, 4, 5,000, put it aside, and the net amount actually is the zakatable one based on 2.5% zakat rate. Determining the value of the assets. That's a very common question merchants actually ask. Okay, let's go back to the car dealership issue. Let's say that you ended up in the zakat due date having 15 cars, and the listing price for those 15 cars, give me an amount, 200,000. That is the retail value. Yeah, and if you are to sell those cars today, you are anticipated to get $200,000. Do not pay zakah on the $200,000 because you did not sell those cars yet. You might get the 200 and you might not. Okay, how much you paid out of pocket for those cars? Let's say $120,000. Do not pay zakah based on the 120, because the wholesale market value today might be the same, might be more, or might be less. How to come up with the most fair calculation? Okay, ask yourself a question. If I do not have all these cars parking in my parking lot, okay, in the zakat due date, if I'm to go today in the zakat due date, if I'm to go today to the auction and buy all these 15 cars, okay, wholesale, how much I have to pay for all of them? Let's say 140. You pay zakah 140. Only 90,000 for whatever reason. You pay zakah on the 90,000. So do not go with the retail value. Do not go with the invoice value. Okay, go with what's called the wholesale market value. Wholesale market. Likewise, if you have a grocery store, if you do not have all the grocery items on your store, and you are to buy everything wholesale from the suppliers, from the wholesalers, how much you have to pay in the zakat to buy everything that you already have? That is actually the wholesale market value. Do not go with the retail value. Do not go with the invoice value. Go with the wholesale market value. Agricultural products, we can skip it. Livestock. You do have a copy from the presentation, don't you? Right? طيب. Livestock, بنت مخاض, زكاة رسي. طيب. Let's stop here and take few questions, please. And again, limit yourself to only one question. Make it like straightforward to the point, okay? Uh, طيب. Can you take the mic, please, and ask the question? تفضل.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you. My question is about exploited taxes concept that you just spoke about. If I invest like $200,000 in real estate in stocks, that could be a long-term investment, and I'm getting dividend or interest or return of that $200,000 for the year. It's $20,000. So would you call the $200,000 to be taxable, or the $20,000 that I made money from? It's just the same thing as I buy a house and then I get a rent of, from the house $20,000. That could be, my 2.5%, zakat.
Did you end up having $220,000 cash in the zakat due date?
I had a long-term investment of $200,000 in real estate stocks.
Real estate stocks?
Real estate stocks, yes.
What does that company do? Is it REIT,
Yeah, REIT.
like real estate investment trust? Are you sure that that REIT company is asset one and not mortgage one? Are you sure?
I don't know if it is mortgage
you
one or
need-
not.
yeah, you
I'm
need-
just investing in the stocks that are out there.
Well, that's the issue here. I mean, although it's not our topic, but when it comes to investment in REIT, R-E-I-T, Real Estate Investment Trust, this is like a very confusing business in the U.S. Some of those REIT company, they are asset and mortgage ones, which means that some of the money that you pay goes to purchasing rental properties and making lease revenue, which is halal one. And some of that money actually goes to mortgage, believe it or not. Like they lend that money for interest.
Correct.
So once you decide to invest with REIT, you have to do your own due diligence and make sure that this REIT company is an asset one and not a mortgage one and not a mixed one. That's number one. Now, to answer your question, you need to tell me what kind of business they do. Is it like mortgage or assets only, like rentals only? Based on that, I can give you an answer.
Yeah, mainly, they're making rental income. They're investing in the rental properties, so mainly they give you a return back at the end of every quarter.
If you are positive that what they do is just exclusively rental, then you pay zakah on the lease revenue, on the profit that you make, not on the principal.
Not as a principal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
And
you
for
own
the
like a
other-
certain
for the
percentage
other
of the house.
stocks that are not REIT, they're not being touched. They are
But that is-
long-term
yeah.
investment. How you call
That is the very confusing part. I mean, what kind of stocks do they belong to? Like technology, IT, pharmaceutical, education. I mean, we need to find out. But in my opinion, as long as they are stocks in the market for investment purposes, you treat them as cash money.
So
Okay.
my basic question was, if I am actively trading on, in a
You
stocks,
pay zakah on everything.
then you pay, but
Correct.
if I haven't left it out there for a whole year,
If
or
you are
4
positive that
years,
that account is inactive, then you pay zakah on the dividend only. That's the rule. Sisters,
Assalamu alaikum. If someone has zakatable property but they don't have liquid cash to pay zakat, what should they do?
do you have some other assets, like some other sources, some other cash money from different sources? If the answer is yes, then you can pay zakah on that rental property, whatever, from a different source, because you are the responsible party. Let's say that you have a rental property, right? And from that rental property, you did not come up with any solid amount to pay zakah on its behalf. But you do have 401k, you do have some cash money, you do have some gold. So from other resources, you can pay on behalf of that zakatable wealth. You see? Because like all these different sources are responsible by you. You are the zakah payer. So you pay on behalf of one asset from a different source of income, that would be fine. In other words, you don't have to pay zakah from the exact source. You can pay from other sources. Is that clear? Go on.
Assalamu alaikum. I have a self-directed IRA account, and say I put my money in Amana funds. And so it's there for a long period of time. It's a long period investment. I'm not touching it. So you're saying, since that's a mutual fund, Amana is typically a mutual fund, I should pay on the cash price of that, or is it treated like a long-term investment and I only pay on the dividends?
No, you pay zakah on everything. You have individual retirement account,
Yes.
right? Well, you pay zakah on everything. On the net amount, on the take-home amount. Again, you do the same, the same exercise. Like if you are to withdraw everything, if you want like to liquidate your account, how much cash money will be taken home amount? Because this is a very taxable money, right?
Yes.
How much tax you have to pay, how much penalty, how much processing fees. Do the math, deduct everything. The net amount is the zakatable one based on 2.5%.
So I wouldn't treat it like a stock account, because even though it might be a long-term investment for me, I cannot treat
Amana
it.
actually is the one who's doing the business on your behalf. They trade in the stock market on a daily basis.
I see.
So
Okay.
this is a very active account actually, although you might think otherwise.
Assalamu alaikum. This is very useful, by the way. So, very quick question. If you have a donor trust, that money is supposed to go to donation, it's tax-free.
If you have what, I'm sorry?
A donor trust?
Donor trust?
Yes. So, part of my taxable assets are going in there to protect it from taxation, right? Now, 100% of that is not going to zakat, might be going to some other non-zakat things. So, how do we deal with the money there?
Donor trust means that you do have some money, but legally speaking, that money is not yours. That's a donation.
It's a protected asset that you create for the purpose of 100% donating that money.
Well, if that money is like designated for donation,
Yes.
for donation, and you do have a plan to donate that money, although you are the trustee on that account or that foundation, whatever, or trust,
Yes.
then this is actually not I mean, this is the zakah money itself. Like if you decide to pay it to eligible zakah recipients, then go for it. But do you have to pay zakah on the donation? Of course, no.
No, but the money in that account, most of it goes for zakat, but some of it does not. Then how do we deal with the money that's not going directly for it? I'm not very sure about that part.
Well, at the end of the day, it is a donation money, whether zakah
Yes.
or sadaqah. It's not your money. It is not.
No. Yeah.
Like legally speaking, from the time that you transfer that fund from your personal account, your business account, to that foundation, to that charity trust with fidelity or whatever, that money actually is not yours.
That's
But you are
correct.
the trustee.
That's correct. Yeah.
So that money actually is either zakah money or sadaqah money. You don't have to pay zakah on the zakah money or sadaqah on the.
Thank you.
طيب تفضل اخواننا. يسلم.
Assalamu alaikum. So follow up of that question of Amana Fund. So if in my 401k, if I put it in individual stock and leave it and not touch it for 3-4 years, is it treated as an exploit asset then or not?
It is
One single
zakatable in full.
Hmm?
It is zakah. Is it?
Like I buy Apple stock and leave it. I don't.
Did you say your 401k?
Yeah.
Now, we discussed already, we said that when it comes to the 401k, that's a very special case. This is a very restricted amount. It's not IRA, it is 401k. So with the 401k, you go with the withdrawable amount, which is in most cases, like if you do your best to borrow from it and apply for hardship or humanitarian case, whatever they call it, you might end up like withdrawing up to maybe 50%. So 50% actually is the withdrawable amount, minus any prescribed tax and penalty. Net amount is the zakatable one.
Yeah, but this amount, if I'm investing all the 401k in individual stock and I'm not trading, not actively trading it, would it be treated as exploit assets or not?
Can
Regardless
you
of
prove that your 401k is not under investment?
sing-
Did you switch
individual
from
stock? Hmm?
Did you switch from 401k to IRA?
No, I can buy individual stocks. I can control the 401k, self-directed.
How did you know that this account is not under investment? Who's your investment company?
Fidelity.
Fidelity.
Yeah.
Who's your financial advisor?
No, self-directed. I pick what stocks.
Self-directed investment?
Yeah.
And you are not trading, buying and selling?
No, it was Amana Fund. I'm asking if I switch it from Amana and I buy individual stocks and leave it as individual stocks. Would it be asset or not? Exploited asset or not?
If it is like self-directed investment, So you are the one who makes the decision, and you just sit on that account. You do not trade, you do not buy and sell, and you make some dividend every now and then. Then yes, you have to, like, you pay zakah on the dividend only. But the challenge here actually is to prove it, because I really doubt it that you have an account with amana or fidelity and it's not under investment. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not a 401k anymore. I mean, he has full access to it. Am I correct? How much access you have to, if you want to do your best, like withdrawing everything? Can you withdraw the whole amount, 401k? You cannot? How much you can withdraw? So there are like two different contradicting factors here. It is a 401k, very limited and restricted from one side, but it is self-directed investment from the other side. My answer is, it should be the same. The withdrawable amount, and you answer it, like how much is I do not know. Withdrawable amount, okay, minus any prescribed penalty and tax. If you can withdraw everything, then the withdrawable amount is 100% of the account that you have, minus the tax and the penalty. Net amount is zakatable based on 2.5%. Just to keep it simple, withdrawable amount minus any prescribed, and you apply that formula to your account because you know details about it way more than what I know. Sisters, good to go. تفضل.
These mutual funds, like the Amana ones, they provide you with...
Can you bring the mic closer, please?
Okay. So the Amana funds, they provide you with the statement for zakat at the end of the year. So can you rely on that to make your zakat payments?
Wallahi, if you trust their Sharia advisor, then yes, why not? If they tell you that, listen, this is the zakatable part based on their fatwa, then, and again, you know that they do have Sharia advisory board, like trustworthy scholars, know their business very well, and you trust them, then just go with their fatwa, that's fine.
And they do it based on Gregorian calendar. How do you...
Based on what? Gregorian?
Yes, calendar.
Okay.
From
Do they ask you
January
to pay 2.575%?
Yes, they do the calculations per the Sharia, but based on the...
Which is fine. Just go for it. Yeah, fine. طيب, can we continue, inshallah? We have a lot of materials to cover, and we have only... Okay, my friend from New Orleans, تفضل. Yeah, all the way, the doctor back.
My question is about that 10% rule on the...
10% what?
10% rule of total investment. There is one of the rulings I had read somewhere. Is that also...
Can you give me an example?
What they recommended, that you, rather than going into just like what you're saying, that you pay if you're not actively trading, if you're doing active trading, then you pay the whole 2.5% on the total amount. But they were recommending that if you have, let's say, $100,000, and if you are doing only half of them trading, the other half is just sitting there, you pay only on 10% on the total amount of profit you made, including the dividend.
I have heard that opinion adopted by Sheikh Yusuf al-Qaradawi, rahmatullah alayh. He did that analogy, like he considers this as if it is zakat al-zuru'i wa thimar. So he gives it the same rule of the agricultural products, which is something that respectfully, I disagree with. I mean, money is money, agricultural product is just agricultural product. I mean, why should we apply that analogy, to start with? So 2.5% to the dividend, if that account is inactive, 2.5% on the book value and the dividend if it is a active account. Just keep it simple.
Just one more. The company you mentioned, Aetna, there's multiple nowadays. Musaffa is one of them. Do you okay with that one? they also
Which company, I'm sorry?
Musaffa. Musaffa.
Musaffa? I'm
Yes.
not aware of it, I'm sorry. I don't know. طيب يا جماعة, we need to continue. We have less than 1 hour, I'm sorry. طيب, Zakat recipients, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started with al-fuqara wal-masakin. So you start with whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started with. And you start with the local, needy, and poor individuals. It makes no sense whatsoever that you pay your zakah somewhere else while some of your brothers and sisters in the same community who pray like next to you in the same masjid waiting for your zakah, and then you end up like, you know, depriving them from getting their right. You are not doing them a favor. This is their right and this is your obligation to pay them zakah. So you start with the needy individuals within your local community. Difference between al-fuqara wal-masakin is a debatable issue. Some madhahib say that al-faqir is the one who does not have a source of income, while al-miskin is the one who does have, but that income is insufficient. Some said no, al-faqir is the one who asks, like, you know, publicly for zakah, doesn't mind at all. And al-miskin is the one who shies away from asking. Whatever the madhab you follow, at the end of the day, fuqara wal-masakin are needy and poor individuals, and they deserve zakat al-mal. Al-amilun alayha or al-amilin alayha are the zakah workers. They can deduct whatever is sufficient for them, okay? And they should be actually paid equivalent to what their colleagues who work in corporate America. We should not like underpay our Muslim brothers and sisters who work in the charity organizations. Meanwhile, they should not be overpaid. Okay, I came across like several examples where you know, top executives actually are overpaid. Like they get a salary way more than other individuals within the same qualification and experience. So let's go bil ma'roof. I mean, do not overpay and do not, you know, underpay. Al-mu'allafati qulubuhum, those whose hearts are to be reconciled, mainly new Muslims. We have a new fatwa issued by some members from FICNA, the Fiqh Council of North America, and AMJA, the Assembly of Muslim Jurists of America. We ended up determining that giving zakah for political campaigns, like for, you know, for politicians who are running for different positions, if we think that those individuals will bring some benefit to the Muslim community or protecting Muslims against any potential harm, then they can be taken from zakat al-mal, even though they are non-Muslims. Because al-mu'allafati qulubuhum, new converts to Islam or potential Muslims, that's a very debatable issue. If you want to go with the Maliki and with the Hanbali madhab, then you can give zakat al-mal to non-Muslims under the category of al-mu'allafati qulubuhum. If you are a Shafi'i like me, then you cannot give a zakah to potential Muslims. They have to be Muslims already. Despite my Shafi'i background, but actually, I mean, you will see my name on that fatwa. I do agree that giving, you know, politicians, even if they are non-Muslims, even if they have their own agenda, as long as our like politicians, like people involved in politics here, I'm not a politician, I'm just a faqih, I'm a mufti. So if they believe that a certain individual, you know, might bring some benefit to Muslims or protect the Muslim community against any harm with the current situation, the current you know, administration, harassment, and Islamophobia that's, you know, going on nowadays, then giving those individuals from zakat al-mal would be allowed under the category of al-mu'allafati qulub. The fatwa actually is now posted online, and you find it on X and like different social media platforms. So that's al-mu'allafati qulubuhum. Being a Muslim is a condition. I mean, that's a debatable issue. For riqab, those in bondage, giving slaves and captives. Al-gharimin, the debt-ridden. If someone actually is in debt and asks you for zakat al-mal, you need to do some due diligence here. I mean, do not give your zakah under the category of al-gharimin to anyone in debt. If you are positive that he or she borrowed that money for some legitimate expenses, not just some luxury items or unnecessary. This is number one. And number two, the debt actually is due. It's not an installment. No, it is due immediately. And number three, he cannot save some money to pay off or to take care of that loan by himself. So three different conditions. Money was borrowed for legitimate reason, legitimate expenses. He cannot make his own saving to take care of the loan and pay it, and it is due. If all these three different conditions are met, then you can give those individuals from zakat al-mal under the category of al-gharimin. If your masjid actually is involved in installment payment, piece of land, construction, whatever, for the sake of the masjid, okay, and they are in debt, and they ask you for zakatul mal, under the category of al-gharimin, you can pay your zakah to your masjid, to pay off for that land or for that property, if it is an endowment fund for the masjid, for example. Fi sabilillah, in the cause of Allah, or for the sake of Allah, traditionally speaking, like predominantly, that category was designated for the volunteers among the mujahideen a while ago, who used to go with Prophet ﷺ, and then later on, without being paid for their service or for their jihad activities. So because of staying away from their business and just going, to save, to fight for the cause of Allah and to serve the Muslim community, they used to be paid under the category of fi sabilillah. But there is no indication in the Quran or even in the Hadith that this category is exclusively for the mujahideen. Okay, fi sabilillah means for the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is from one side. From the other side, even if you want to stick to the traditional understanding that fi sabilillah means for jihad, what is the main purpose of the jihad? Isn't it to empower the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to make sure that people have enough information, enough knowledge, and they have the freedom to pick and choose what religion they want? If the answer is yes, then Islamic centers and Islamic organizations in the USA serve the same purpose. And that's why all the contemporary fiqh councils, including our fiqh council, AMJA, the Assembly of Muslim Jurists of America, the Fiqh Council of North America, even the Fiqh Council of the Muslim World League, they issued a fatwa, I think 30 plus years ago, that fi sabilillah could be interpreted otherwise, like to support and to empower the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Based on that, if a certain organization like Guidance College, like your own masjid, if you believe that organization is doing a good job serving the Muslim community, number one, and number two, you trust the leadership, the people in charge who make a decision and sign checks, okay? If you trust the leadership of that organization, number two. And number three, if they tell you, listen, we want your zakah money, so they ask for the zakah money. Three different conditions. You trust, you believe that organization is providing a legitimate and beneficial service to the Muslim community. Number two, you trust the leadership of the people in charge of that organization. Number three, they explicitly ask for zakatul mal, then you can give them zakatul mal under the category fi sabilillah. Does that include your masjid? The answer is yes. Can you pay your zakat to build a masjid or to expand the masjid or to cover the overhead expenses of the masjid? The answer actually is yes. Okay, unlike the very classical understanding that we came up with from overseas, that those zakah is only for the needy and the masajid are ineligible, well, this is incorrect, with all due respect. If we are back home in Pakistan or in Saudi Arabia or in Yemen or Algeria or like Muslim society, they have their own budget, they have their Ministry of Islamic Affairs, they have their own budget and human resources to take care of the masajid. It's not the case for us Muslims in the USA. By the way, for those who did not attend the khutbah yesterday, I was the khatib, and I brought to the attention of the community that Guidance College is an eligible zakah recipient, because we have students who are either needy, like fuqara al-masakeen, needy, who cannot afford paying the tuition fees, and some of them actually are among al-mu'allafati qulubuhum, like the new converts, and like both categories actually are eligible zakah recipients. And I highly encourage my community yesterday to donate generously to support the noble cause that Guidance College actually is standing for. Just a quick reminder, sponsoring a student for 4 years to get a bachelor's degree in Islamic studies, $10,000. $5,000 to sponsor a student for 2 years, associate degree in Islamic studies. $2,500 to sponsor a student for 1 academic year. For those who were not here yesterday, it's never too late. You can make a donation. I do have a credit card machine and some pledge forms for those who want to donate. Or maybe you can go online, go to guidancecollege.org and make a donation. If you go to guidancecollege.org, it gives you the option of donating either cash or cryptocurrency or even stocks. I mean, it's very simple, very easy to donate. So please make sure that you contribute and you support the noble cause that Guidance College actually stands for. Definitely you can pay zakatul mal under the category of al-fuqara wal-masakeen, under the category of al-mu'allafati qulub, new Muslims. In guidance college, actually, I go my madhab as a president. I go my madhab. I do not give zakat to potential. I give zakat only to like new Muslims who join guidance college for a degree, and they cannot afford, paying the tuition fees. So that's fi sabilillah. Fi sabilillah. طيب. Ibn Sabil, like the wayfarers, anyone stranded by circumstances. Nowadays, like refugees and political asylees actually could be given. What's the difference between Ibn Sabil and al-Faqir? Faqir is basically someone who's in need, right? But Ibn Sabil could be a wealthy individual back home, but he or she does not have an access to that wealth. Like a refugee or political asylee living in the USA, from Somalia, from Sudan, from Jordan, from any place in the world. Back home is very wealthy. But here actually he's like very stranded and very far away from the wealth. He doesn't have an access to his wealth back home. And that's why technically he needs zakat. That's called Ibn Sabil. You cannot give your zakat to rich and the work and earning capable individuals, those like monks or the devotees who refuse to work, anyone who stands like publicly against Islam and Muslims, non-Muslims according to the strongest opinion, ascendants and descendants. You cannot give your zakah. You cannot give your zakah to your parents and grandparents. وَإِنْ عَلَوْا أَنَبْ. You cannot give your zakah to your children and grandchildren, right? As well as you cannot give your zakah to your wife, because you are responsible to sponsor. You are responsible for the financial sponsorship of your wife. Is that correct? طيب, if you are a needy individual and your wife is a wealthy individual, can she or can you take zakatul mal from your wife? You're gonna look so bad, by the way. If you take so do not do it. Yes, you can. Yeah, you can. The work and earning capable. If someone actually is able to work, and he or she does have like a job opening or working opportunity, but he refuses to work, that person should be deprived from zakatul mal, because that person, with all due respect, is just a liability. Okay, I mean, he's not adding any value to the society, right? If he can work, and the work actually is suitable for him, for his qualification, his experience, and his age, okay, not any job for anyone, right? Then that person should be deprived from zakat al-mal, because he's just a lazy individual. Go and just work and remember the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, al-yad al-ulya khayru min al-yad al-sufla. The upper hand is way better than the lower hand. Why you put yourself in that position where you just wait for a sadaqah or donation from others? No, go ahead and work and take care of your own expenses. So those are the individuals are not to be giving from zakat al-mal. No maximum amount to give one recipient, okay? Some scholars, like including in my madhab, they say that you have to divide your zakah equally between the 8 different categories. Although I'm a Shafi'i, but actually I do not believe that this is a correct opinion. There is no evidence that you have to cover all different categories. You just pick and choose whatever category you think. And not only that, you can even like give your zakah to one individual within one category, okay? You want to give your zakah to al-fuqara, like needy individuals or poor individuals, okay? And you picked only one individual that you believe that this person deserves my zakah the most for this year. And your zakah is $7,000. Can you give that $7,000 in full to only one individual? The answer actually is yes. It's your money, it's your call. Do whatever you want. Just be as just, as fair as possible. So that is a restriction on distribution. No obligation to give via cash money. You can pay in kind, you can pay in cash. Even if you have like agricultural products or you have livestock, for example, you don't have to pay in kind. You can pay in cash. If your zakah for this year is like one shah, like one lamb or goat or whatever, okay, if it is like $300, you can instead just pay $300 zakat al-mal on behalf of the livestock that that you have. Agricultural products are actually the same. If your zakah for this year is 75 pounds or 100 pounds of wheat, okay, how much they worth? Okay, $300. You just go ahead and pay it $300. Whatever is easier for you and more beneficial for the zakah recipients. Alhamdulillah, we have a lot of flexibility here because the zakah actually does have a spirit, right? which is to serve the community and to help the less fortunate individuals. So if it is more convenient for them to give them cash money and they can handle it, go ahead and just give them cash money. So no annual distribution is required. Paying on monthly basis is acceptable as long as you pay in advance. Okay, what does that mean? You found out for the last few years that your zakah is around $6,000 a year, right? And it might be hard for you to find $6,000 cash available in Ramadan to pay. Can you start paying from now on behalf of your zakah, like you pay in advance? That's your question. The answer actually is yes. As long as you pay with the intention of giving against your zakah. So when you raise your hand for in a fundraising or you participate in any fundraising, you go there with the intention of paying from zakatul mal. That's number one. And number two, you make sure that you give that zakah money to a cause that is zakatable, like eligible zakah recipients, like for example, guidance college. If you do so, it will be counted as zakatul mal. So instead of paying $6,000 one time in the month of Ramadan, you pay $500, for example, every month. In the month of Ramadan, you don't have to pay more than $500. What if you found out that your zakah for this year is $8,000? Well, you just pay the extra. What if you found out that your zakah for this year is only $4,000, while you already paid $6,000? You have two options here. You can count that extra money. You can give yourself a credit from the zakah of next year, or otherwise you just count it as sadaqah, right? Like extra sadaqah and not zakah. Zakah year starts once you constitute the minimum threshold. That's a good point. Most of us here, if not even all of us, mark their calendar for the month of Ramadan. But technically speaking, your hawl, your fiscal lunar year, starts from the day where the nisab is constituted. Okay, like whenever you accumulate $12,750, technically speaking, that's the beginning of your hawl, right? Like the fiscal lunar year starts from that very particular day. In the real life, it's close to impossible for all of us here to remember which day of the year we just constitute the nisab. And that's why we just take it easy and mark our calendar for the beginning of the month of Ramadan as our zakat due date. But again, by any chance, if you can track your records and find out when did you accumulate the nisab, the $12,750, then that's the beginning of your hawl. Okay, next year, the same day, you have to pay zakatul mal. Is that clear? Adjusting the zakat due date is acceptable as long as you do not delay your zakah payment. Someone found out that his zakah is due in the month of Rajab, but he doesn't want to pay in the month of Rajab. Well, for this year, go ahead and pay your zakah in the month of Rajab. Do not delay your zakah, and you can pay, 2 more months in advance. So you pay for Sha'ban and for Ramadan, right? So next year, your hawl is shifted from Rajab to Ramadan. So you align your zakat due date with the month of Ramadan. So you can do that by shifting the hawl and paying more. Okay, deferring zakat payment is not allowed unless there is a legitimate reason. Means that if the zakah money is there, and the eligible zakah recipients are there, then there is no reason for you to hold your zakah, unless there is a like stressing or desperate need for it. I'll give you an example. Someone sponsors a family, and he knows for a fact that the head of the the head of the household is not respectful, is not that prudent and wise individual. If he is to be given let's say $6,000 cash, he might spend that money within one or 2 months. So that zakah payer would rather just keep that money in a separate bank account, notifying his family members that this is not my money, this is zakah money. And instead of paying one time $6,000, he would pay $500 every month to that family. And sometimes even he does not give them cash money. He just takes care of their groceries or utility bills to make sure that that individual in charge of that family is not taking cash money. He might spend that money wastefully. Is that a legitimate excuse to hold your zakah and to pay it in installment? The answer actually is yes. Is there any base that the zakah money has to be paid within 1 year? No base for that. No base for that. So if you have zakah money, you don't have to get rid of that money within 1 year because next year you have to pay zakah. Well, you can keep the zakah for years and years. Again, as long as there is a maslaha and clear benefit out of holding that money. This is from one side. From the other side, the charity organizations that we pay them our zakah in most cases are the wakil or the representative, okay, of the zakah payer and the zakah recipient as well. So Islamic Relief USA, Zakat Foundation, Life for Relief, Pure Hands, alhamdulillah, we have now plenty of those charity organizations. They represent the zakah payer, right, in collecting the zakah. And they represent the zakah recipients by paying them the zakah. If you as a zakah payer, if you gave your money to a trustworthy, and I want you to underline this, trustworthy charity organization, you did your best. You did your job. You did your part. You don't need to worry about how, when that money will be spent and to whom. That's your job. You did your own due diligence. You found out that this is a trustworthy organization. You made it clear that I want my money to go to the orphans in India, students of knowledge in Saudi Arabia, widows in Jordan, whatever. Okay, and they have to abide with your will. Okay, whatever you want that money to be spent, they have to, follow your direction. You did your job, so they represent you in taking the money. Now, for how long they're gonna hold the money, that's their duty. That's their, their responsibility. I'm not responsible for them. Of course, like as a trustworthy organization, they are expected to spend and distribute the money as soon as possible. There is no need to hold the money if there is no need for that, right? So if the zakah recipients are there and the money is there, then the money actually has to be, dispersed and paid as soon as possible. If someone actually was supposed to pay zakatul mal, but maybe out of laziness, carelessness, procrastination, whatever the reason, just keep delaying and delaying until the money is gone, right? Well, he has to pay his zakah again. He has to pay his zakah one more time because he did not do his due diligence by paying on time. If that money was gone for a reason like out of his control, there was no intentional delay or laziness or carelessness from his end, then he doesn't have to pay that zakah again. Prepaid and unpaid zakah, prepayment of zakatul mal is permissible. Can you prepay zakatul mal? Yes. Even for more than 1 year. You can prepay zakatul mal for 1, for 2, for 3 years, as long as there is a reason for that. Death does not relieve one from paying his zakah. If someone passed away already, while owing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a certain amount of money as zakah, okay, that zakah is not to be waived. Like the legal heirs of that individual have to take that zakah money from the inheritance, the wealth that he left behind, pay zakatul mal, covering the expenses of his funeral, paying any other due debts, and they have to start with zakatul mal because that's something due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the rest of the wealth actually is the distributable one based according to the Islamic inheritance law. You can pay in cash, you can pay in kind. Proper intention prior to payment. Okay. Here is the mainstream fatwa. If you give someone a loan, and you found out that, let's say 5,000, and you found out that in the zakah due date, your zakah for this year is $5,000. And that individual is still desperate for that money. He is still eligible zakah recipient. Can you waive that loan? Can you waive that loan and count it against your zakah? The mainstream fatwa says no, because when you give that money, you give it with the intention of giving a loan. Are you catching up with me here? That's the mainstream fatwa. My opinion is different. Okay, you can change your intention, right? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran said, وَإِن كَانَ ذُو عُسْرَةٍ فَنَظِرَةٌ إِلَى مَيْسَرَةٍ. If the borrower actually is insolvent, give him more time. And then what did he say after that? وَأَن تَصَدَّقُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. And if you pay in charity, that will be even better for you. How can you make a sadaqah in this very particular scenario? You just waive the loan. Tell them, listen, just forget about that loan. And you count it against your zakah. That's the opinion of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz radiallahu anhu and some other of the Salaf, and that's actually the opinion that I adopt. So if you give someone zakatul mal and you are almost positive, okay, almost positive that he's still an eligible zakah recipient, can you waive the loan and count it against your zakah? My answer actually is yes. Not only that, you have a rental property. You usually rent it for $2,000 a month. A refugee family came from somewhere, right? Muslims, practicing Muslims, and you allow them to live in your apartment for free. Can you count $24,000 against your zakah? The answer actually is yes, because I mean this service, like living there, they call it the usufruct, like living there is a chargeable service. If you have decided to let somebody else living there as a rent, as a tenant, you would have been able to charge him or her $24,000. You are giving that apartment for free. So you can definitely count $24,000 against your zakah. Not only that, hold on. You work as a dentist, as a doctor, okay? And you serve some needy, desperate individuals, Muslims, okay? If you charge for that, like, extracting a tooth, for example, $500, can you count it against your zakah? If you serve the needy Muslim brother or sister, the answer actually is yes. So alhamdulillah, we have a lot of flexibility here. Whatever you do with the proper intention, with the proper recipient, you make sure that that individual is an eligible zakah recipient. I mean, that's your responsibility. You have to do your own due diligence to make sure that you give that service to eligible zakah recipients. If the answer is yes, I did my best, even if you found out later on that you were mistaken, that individual actually was not a trustworthy individual, that's fine. Your zakah, inshallah, is counted. Clear? So proper recipient, proper assessment, paying a minimum of zakatul mal. If your zakah is 6,000 and you are 100% positive that throughout the whole year long, okay, you paid $9,000 with the intention of paying zakatul mal, and you did your best to give that money to eligible zakah recipient. Do you have to calculate, okay, your zakah and the zakah due date? Do you have to? You don't have to, because actually you already paid way more than what you're supposed to be. If you do have some doubt, no, you need to sit down and just do the math. Make sure that the minimum you paid matches your zakah. If you paid more, alhamdulillah, ذَلِكَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ يُؤْتِيهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. If you paid less, then you have to pay the difference. Authority to accept zakatul mal, Muslim government, if we have any. Unfortunately, our so-called Muslim government, they just charge tax money, and they do not care about zakatul mal, and that tax money actually goes to the corrupt regimes and leaders there. Otherwise, you give it to trustworthy organizations. As long as you trust the leadership of any Islamic organization in the USA, you can give them zakatul mal. Muslim community, if you have your own body within the masjid, maybe the imam, maybe zakah committee, maybe executive committee, whatever, if you trust them and they do a good job in collecting and they know the community or who needs and who does not need, give them your money, and that will be bara'atu dhimma for you. You just you give them the money and they will handle it. Otherwise, you just take care of your own zakah. You calculate it, you distribute it on behalf of yourself. There is actually a good website here that is zakifinancial.com. I can send it to the Sheikh. I did not send it to the sister who was communicating. Is there anyone here with the name of Shifa? Shifa? She was here. She was actually the one who was communicating with me. I sent her the documents, the presentation, and another book. So I can send that. Go to zakifinancial.com/calculators. This is actually an Islamic investment company, and I'm the Sharia consultant of that company. I think you find me. Yeah, that's me. Here you go. That's me. They do have their own online calculator. I do actually approve it. Go to calculators here. Okay. Yes, it is an online form. What's good about it is that it is for free. number one. And number two, you don't have to insert any personal information. No name, no date of birth, no social security, nothing whatsoever. Okay, just generic one. You just enter the figure amounts of the gold, of the silver, of the investment, of the long-term investment, of the retirement account, saving or whatever, and the system automatically actually will generate an answer for you. So you can confidently depend on this online zakah calculator. I did actually review it, alhamdulillah, in full, and I do trust it. So that is the zakah calculators. طيب, let's take now questions. We still have maybe 20 minutes before I leave. Please limit yourself to only one question and make it straightforward to the point. Yes, أخي, تفضل. Yeah, تفضل. Sorry. Can you use the mic, please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, did you say, Yahi, that you donate the money to purpose of masjid? You donate. Is that acceptable as a zakat, or it is just a donation? Is it zakat? It counts like a zakat.
If you think that masjid actually is serving the community, you trust the leadership of the masjid, they ask for zakat al-mal because the fund and the donation and the grants, okay, and the hibat and the gifts are insufficient to cover their expenses, and they literally ask for zakat al-mal, then you can give zakat al-mal to your masjid. I give, like on a personal level, I give my zakat to my local masjid, I give my zakat to Guidance College, I give my zakat to CARE, to ISNA, to ICNA, to MAS, to American Muslims. I love all these organizations. I trust their leadership. I wholeheartedly believe that they do a wonderful job serving the Muslim community, serving the interests of Islam and Muslims in the society. That's why, I pay them zakat al-mal.
Yeah. My intention is, because I don't know when I give the donation to the masjid where it goes. I say I'm a naive guy. I don't know the much where.
No, you are not. No, you are not. You are very smart and very practicing and very caring about your deen. And once you believe that your masjid is an eligible zakat recipient, you are not responsible for the way that they spare the funds. Okay?
Yes,
Your masjid, if the masjid is asking for zakat al-mal,
Yes,
asking for the zakat because the fund that they receive is insufficient. You know the leaders of the masjid, you see that your masjid, mashallah, is doing a wonderful job, give them your zakah. Don't worry.
Yeah, just 401, we talked
Like,
about 401.
can we
Okay.
limit ourselves, because you have a lot of questions. Sorry. Give anyone that you want. Can you run the show? Can you take care of that? One question, please.
Sure, sure. You mentioned you have to pay the zakat in advance. And when we are calculating zakat, and let's say on 1st of Ramadan, typically what I am doing, maybe I will be doing wrong. I calculate the zakat on 1st Ramadan and try to pay off the zakat within the next 30 days. Is that wrong or is that correct?
Can you say it again slowly, please?
On 1st of Ramadan 2026, I calculate my zakat. Let's say that my zakat amount is $5,000. And I pay off that money in the next 30 days or 40 days. Is that a wrong approach? I have to pay that zakat amount before the day of calculating the zakat? Or do I calculate and then pay the zakat?
The zakat that you pay every year is on behalf of the previous year, not the upcoming year. So your zakat due date is Ramadan the 1st. You do the math, you do your best to pay your zakat as soon as possible. If it took you spending the zakat money 6 months, 1 year, whatever time you take, you're still actually paying zakah on behalf of the previous year.
Yeah. But I start making the payment after I make the calculation. Is that okay?
Well, you can. Okay. You can. Again, like if you do not have enough cash to pay your zakah, okay, you need to shop around for some other resources, liquidate some assets, some stocks to pay on behalf of your zakah. That would be fine as well. No. Sisters. Yes, ma'am.
This is a question from one of the sisters. So is it okay to give zakat to my brother who doesn't work, although he is capable to work, but it is hard for him to find work? He's currently being taken care of by his mom, who gets government income from back home.
If he cannot find a job, and he's diligently looking for a job, then yes, you can pay your zakat to your brother. You can.
Sheikh,
and I would assume that he needs the money, right?
Yes.
He needs the money. He's a needy individual.
Eligible, yes.
Yeah, eligible.
Yes.
That's fine. Yes, you can.
Sheikh, can I pay zakat to the politician, like Islamic politician? established in the United States.
Do not do
For
it
their-
directly, akhi. Give it to Islamic organizations who are authorized to collect money and give it to politicians. Because honestly, you and I are not politicians, right? So we do not know like who deserve it the most.
If I know somebody directly and they're running for politics and they're collecting money,
I would rather just stick to our fatwa that is posted recently, that you give your zakatul mal under the category of al-mu'allafati qulubuhum to organizations and let them allocate that money to whomever they want. Let them take the responsibility of picking and choosing the right individual. I have received a lot of like rejection and criticism. Oh, can you give your zakat to مش عارف transgender و supporting مش عارف غيره.
so
If you can give your zakat to non-Muslims, okay, you are not responsible for their like lifestyle and their practice. You give them zakat for a certain purpose. You wholeheartedly believe that those individuals are good enough in defending Muslims, right? Even if they are like homosexual, excuse me all, right, and supporting same-sex marriage and like drink day and night, I don't care about them. I'm giving them my money for a very specific purpose. Okay, I believe based on my understanding and my experience in not me, alhamdulillah, I'm not a politician. Okay, that those individuals love Islam and Muslims and they are willing to defend, okay, and pass the agenda and defend the agenda of Muslim community in the USA. Okay, practicing, non-practicing Muslims, kuffar, mushrikeen, atheist, polytheist, I don't care about all these details. Okay.
So, Sheikh, how about the scholarship endowment fund for school? If I can create an endowment fund for school in the school to pay for the needy students, not necessarily be a Islamic school, just a trade school, just to pay money in the trade school for endowment fund.
You need to check, Habibna, with your attorney or with your CPA. I mean, this is an accounting issue, not a fiqh issue. But it's not an Islamic school. Are the recipients Muslims or not? Needy Muslims? Well, basically, you can make a proper arrangement to allocate that fund for them. But again, you need to check with your attorney there back home or with your CPA just to make sure that you do not violate the law of the land there. But fiqh-wise, I mean, can you pay your zakat to needy students? I mean, that's the fiqh question. The answer is yes, you can. طيب. And we still have 15 more minutes. Yeah, just 4:30, inshallah, we'll be gone, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. We don't need to clean up yet, inshallah. Since we have promised this seminar will go till 4:30, we're going to honor that, inshallah. So for those of us that have come for Asr, we're going to kind of allow the brothers another 10 minutes of questions because Sheikh is here, and then he has to leave immediately after, inshallah. So to make sure we can kind of release him on time because Sheikh has a drive back, out of respect for him, inshallah, we're going to give about another 10 or about 9 to 10 minutes of questions. If you can keep it, as Sheikh had mentioned, just a minute, and he'll give a direct answer to that. And then obviously you can email whatever resources that he has provided.
Jazakallah. Please make sure before you leave that you take a brochure. This is not a pledge form. This is just a brochure that shows you the different programs that Guidance College has. If you can pass them on, please. Yeah, Jazakallah khair.
So
maybe another one for the sisters. Can you take some for the sisters, please?
So Sheikh, very quick question while they are distributing. Jazakallah khair for yesterday's Jummah and for this lecture.
But can we just get settled, please? I mean, we still have 10 minutes. Can we please focus? Would you please just sit down? So I can focus and hear the question. Tafadhali.
So my quick question, first of all, Jazakallah for yesterday's Jummah. And so I was having a practice of locking all my accounts on 1st of Ramadan and taking out the zakah. Yeah, taking out the zakah on 1st of Ramadan. And this has been following from many years. Now, if we receive a big amount, I never used to do that, never used to receive. Now, if we started receiving a big amounts right before Ramadan, can I change my intention or can I modify my intention?
How can you modify your intention?
I mean,
From
1
which
year
intention to
for
which
the big
intention?
amounts for 1 year.
Well, you receive money from the same source of income, from the same
No,
profession.
this is something coming from different sources.
But it's still like business that you do practice usually. and
No,
you
no,
make money from.
this is inheritance and all that.
Well, inheritance, you need to establish a new hawl for the inheritance, as already explained, because that's a very irregular income. So for the inheritance, you establish a new hawl. Your hawl, your zakat due date is Ramadan, the first of each year, for
Yes.
the regular income.
Yes.
For that inheritance, one time, maybe twice throughout your whole lifetime, you establish a new like fiscal lunar year for that inheritance. If you receive that money in Muharram or Safar 15th, you just wait until Safar 15th of the next year and you pay zakat. So different hawl for different source of income. Sisters.
A question we have is, what is defined as needy? Would you consider a needy person like a masjid cleaner back home or street vendor? Do we have to do more verification, or can we quietly hand them a little bit of zakat and you can be, at
You need
peace
to
with
do
that?
your due diligence, either like by your personal experience, you know that individual on a personal level, or maybe by the testimony of trustworthy individuals that if they tell you, listen, I know this guy, he's a needy individual, just take their statement and give him money. Because sometimes actually over asking individuals might like injure their feeling, because they feel that you ask aggressively because you want to give them, that might be like injure their feeling.
Can I just ask a follow-up? If it's not a personal testimony, but you know that they're earning less money, and sometimes people they're prideful in getting zakah, so can you give them zakah, or you still have to ask?
Well, you need to ask, because
Okay.
not every single individual, like like a jobless or individual that might look needy, that in reality he or she is a needy. Some people might be wealthy enough, but they do not appear like wealthy individuals, like their lifestyle, the way that they dress, the car that they drive. But the reality actually is otherwise. So if you do not know them in person, you should do some due diligence, investigate, ask, and then once you are confident that you did your job, and the answer is yes, those individuals are eligible zakah recipients, then you give them your zakah. So do not give your zakah just randomly or because someone claimed to be needy individual. Unfortunately, I'm really sorry to say it, that some Muslims actually take advantage of that. They just ask for zakat al-mal, while the reality is that they should be zakat payers, believe it or not. So you need to be careful. Yes, sir.
Can we give zakat to people who claim to be from Ahlul Bayt?
From
Ahlul Bayt?
if they are Ahlul Bayt al-Ashraf, if they are needy individuals and there is no other source of income for them other than the zakah, then the exceptional rule is that yes, Ahlul Bayt could be given zakat al-mal, but that's the exception, not the default. Okay, they are not supposed to take, because like during the the Islamic State, they used to be like entitled to 1/5 of the war like spoils. There is no jihad, unfortunately. Nowadays, Muslims actually are paying dhariba and tax to non-Muslims. You see, so if those individuals are desperate and needy, Ahlul Bayt al-Ashraf, sada sometimes they call them, and there is no source of income for them, then yes, they can take from zakat al-mal. Yes, sir.
So between 401k and the long-term stock, right, why do we think it's different? Because the long-term stock, you are saying we have to pay only the dividends, but even the 401k is long-term, right, and we are not touching them at all. So why we consider differently, like long-term stocks versus the 401k?
Because the stocks in the 401k are very restricted, very limited. You are not supposed to touch them.
Yeah, so that's also long-term, right? Why we should pay zakah for them, the full value or withdrawal value. But the stocks which I have aimed to keep it long-term, we don't pay, right, for the value. We pay only for dividend.
Your 401k is under investment, like someone is doing the job on your behalf, number one.
Okay.
And number two, it's a very limited, like very restricted investment. You are not supposed to touch it. And that's why the best option is to go with the withdrawable amount. Like how much you can withdraw, whatever you can reach out is the one that you have to pay zakat on it.
Okay.
Anything that is outside the 401k is not restricted. If you have a individual retirement account like Roth IRA, regular IRA, brokerage account, 529 for the education for your kids, AGMA account. I mean, the goes actually, the list goes on and on. All these accounts are accessible in full. And that's why you have to go with the, even if you go with the same formula, withdrawable amount, the withdrawable amount actually is 100%, minus the tax and the penalty, and then you.
So follow up, right? The 401k, right? Even withdrawable, it may be a larger money. If I don't have cash from the other source to give, can I note it down with the NIA to give whenever I get more money and pay later?
You can do that, but the best option actually is to liquidate some of the stocks that you have in your 401k. عرفت؟ I know. Yes, Akhi, go ahead.
Can I pay the zakat after I calculated in first Ramadan? Can I pay it in the next 3 or 4 months in installments based, like whenever people needs or?
Yes, you can, as long as there is a need or legitimate reason behind holding the zakah and paying it in installment. As long as there is a need for that, then yes, you can.
There is no need, but I just wait and enjoy the ibadah of paying zakat. Yeah. No?
No. 8 more minutes, and inshallah we'll do the iqamah. More questions?
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
Earlier you mentioned in terms of deciding which amount for a product, you said wholesale value, correct? Now, let's say this product is fairly new and unique, and there is not yet a fixed value in terms of wholesale price. What would be a fair adjustment to decide about the wholesale price to make sure that I'm giving the proper zakat money on that?
Let's talk. طيب جزاكم الله خير سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك